Chapter 2092. Lu Ying begged Yunjian in the most tactful tone she could muster. As she spoke, she handed the black and white photo that was so old that the face could barely be seen to Yunjian with trembling hands. Lu Ying's father had passed away, her grandmother was paralyzed, her younger brother was still young, and her mother had run away with someone a long time ago. Her only wish now was to see her mother again. As for this old photo, to Lu Ying, it was the only thing she remembered her mother's appearance. Now, she handed the most precious old photo to Yunjian because she trusted Yunjian. She believed that Yunjian would help her keep an eye on her mother. So Lu Ying still gave the photo to Yunjian. However, Yunjian took the old photo from Lu Ying's hands in front of everyone and then glanced at the people in the old photo. There were 5 people in the old photo. An old lady, a young man, and a young woman. The young man and the young woman were holding 2 children in their arms. It was not difficult to tell that the young man and young woman were Lu Ying's father and mother. The young man and young woman in the photo were smiling brightly. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. Both of their faces were filled with happiness. Although the photo was old, Lu Ying had kept it very well. This was probably the best memory of Lu Ying's life. Yunjian glanced at the young woman in the photo and returned the photo to Lu Ying. Lu Ying took the photo that Yunjian returned to her in a daze. She was pleasantly surprised and disappointed. She was pleasantly surprised because the photo was back in her hands. Lu Ying would look at the photo every night and think of her mother's arms when she fell asleep. Now that she had given the photo to Yunjian, it meant that Lu Ying's only spiritual support was gone. She was disappointed because her sister also had her own life. It was only right for her to return the photo to her, and not help her convey these words when she saw her mother. Her small eyes rolled around twice. Lu Ying could not help but tear up. "Mom, where are you? Ying and her brother can be good. Ying can go and earn money for you to spend. As long as you come back and return to Ying and her brother's side." All of this made Lu Ying feel despair. She knew that her mother had left for so long because she did not want her and her brother anymore. Is there no hope left? Just as Lu Ying lowered her head dejectedly and tears fell from the corners of her eyes, a hand touched her head. Lu Ying was shocked. She raised her head and saw Yunjian's exquisite and beautiful face. "I've already memorized your mother's appearance. Now, tell me your mother's name, and I'll help you find her." Yunjian's words were like an arm reaching out for Lu Ying in a desperate situation, causing the 11-year-old child to burst into tears instantly. "Thank you, elder sister. Thank you, elder sister." Lu Ying bowed to Yunjian several times. She almost knelt down to Yunjian. Lu Ying then told Yunjian her mother's name and age. As soon as he finished speaking, the bus driver sent by the school began to urge the university students from Zhongqing City to board the bus and return to school. Ce also took the school bus back to Zhongqing City with Yunjian. Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang had left first, so there was an empty seat on the bus. There was no harm in having Ce. When they had just boarded the bus, Yunjian could still feel that Lu Ying was staring at her closely. Her small eyes were filled with hope. Seeing this, Yunjian pursed her red lips. The second before she boarded the bus, she left Lu Ying with these words, "I'll definitely help you find your mother. I never lie." Although Lu Ying was still a child, she had been very good to Yunjian and Liang Xiumin. She had even given up her blanket to Yunjian and Liang Xiumin in the beginning, even if it meant that she would freeze. The reason why Yunjian could make her subordinates submit to her wholeheartedly was that she, Yunjian, had always been a vengeful person. She would definitely do what she said. Chapter 2093. Yunjian's words gave Lu Ying hope. It had been a long time since anyone had been so nice to her. Lu Ying had an indescribable feeling. In the end, the bus drove away under the gaze of Lu Ying and the rest. Yunjian, who was sitting in the bus, saw Lu Ying and her brother Lu Shi chasing the bus for a long distance through the mirror. The siblings could not catch up with the bus until they reached a rugged mountain road. Lu Ying and Lu Shi's gazes carried a trace of pleading. At this moment, an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old had placed all their hopes and future on Yunjian. They hoped that in the near future, their mother would hear their pleas and come home. The bus took the group back the way it came. The bus drove very slowly. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. At the entrance of Wuzhen town, she saw the 2 old ruffians who had tried to stop Yunjian and Liang Xiumin in the bamboo forest. The 2 old ruffians were limping. Although they survived, It seemed like they would have to limp for the rest of their lives. Of course, this was their retribution. Yun Jian did not expect the two old ruffians to survive. In spite of it, Yun Jian was no longer interested in how the two old ruffians managed to survive. After the bus left Wuzhen town and drove into the city, Yun Jian directly sent the information of Lu Ying's mother to the Kosha mercenaries intelligence group. It was already evening when they returned to Zhongqing. The next morning, CE returned to an Han organization. The next afternoon, Yun Jian and Zhu Huili had lunch in the cafeteria. While they were eating, her phone suddenly received a message. She took it out and saw that it was from Diane. The content of the message was very simple. She had found the whereabouts of Lu Ying's mother. After lunch, Yun Jian stuffed her phone into her pocket and told Zhu Huili that she would be taking 3 days off. Zhu Huili responded. She wasn't surprised by this at all. After calling her homeroom teacher, Miss Yu, to tell her that she wanted to take 3 days off, Yun Jian walked towards the school gate. Last time, Miss Yu had promised her that as long as she went to the countryside to teach, she could ask for leave whenever she wanted. Miss Yu didn't go back on her word. Hey, President, you're finally back. We've been waiting for you for the past 2 days. When he reached the school gate, he bumped into Zhou Huntao from the martial arts club. When Zhou Huntao saw Yun Jian, he hurriedly stopped and greeted his brothers before speaking to Yun Jian. Zhou Huntao's brothers were obviously stunned. Could it be that this girl was the legendary new president of the martial arts club? In the next second, Yun Jian's words confirmed their thoughts. I'll take 3 days off. Tell Mo Bufan to continue supervising the training of the members of the club while I'm away. After I return, I'll test the progress of the members of the club one by one. The martial arts competition was just around the corner, and it all depended on one's willpower. Zhou Huntao nodded at Yun Jian's words. After she finished speaking, she walked out of the school. Seeing that Yun Jian had walked far away, one of Zhou Huntao's brothers asked Zhou Huntao, "Huntao, is this the new president of your martial arts club?" At first, Zhou Huntao's brothers couldn't believe it. That girl was the legendary new president of the martial arts club, Yun Jian, who had directly charged into Dragon City University's martial arts club and beaten up Wu Ren. They thought that Yun Jian would grow up to look like a tough girl, with a rough and fierce body. But she was too king beautiful. However, in front of his brothers, Zhou Huntao proudly and confidently said, "That's right, she's the new president of our martial arts club. With her, we'll definitely get first place in this year's martial arts competition." Chapter 2094. Zhou Huntao's confident words caused an uproar among his brothers. Although there was a trace of disbelief in their hearts. Could such a skinny body really lead the members of the martial arts club to win the first place in this year's martial arts competition? But at this moment, no one said anything about doubts. The next day. Ji Province. Guang City. Guang City was a first-tier city located in Ji Province. Its economy was developing fast, and the people's living standards were high. Located in the suburbs of Guang City, there was a tall villa. The villa was surrounded by people holding iron rods. This group of people looked like ruffians from head to toe. They walked back and forth to the left and right as if they were guarding someone in the villa. In the villa, in a large room, a lady sat in front of a makeup mirror. She fiddled with her hair in a daze, and her face was getting more and more haggard. With a creak, the door was opened and then closed. This lady was completely unaffected by the door opening and closing. She continued fiddling with her hair in a daze, as if she was an emotionless doll. It wasn't until the door was closed and locked that the lady was awakened from her reverie by the sound of a woman's voice, which was as pleasant as the sound of nature. "You abandoned your family and children, leaving your son and daughter to live a life worse than pigs and dogs in the poor mountainous area. Wang Xuefen, have you ever felt the slightest bit of remorse?" The person who came was Yun Jian. And Wang Xuefen was the mother who abandoned Lu Ying and Lu Shi. When Wang Xuefen heard Yun Jian's words, she suddenly stood up from the bench in front of the makeup table. She turned around and stared at Yun Jian in shock. "Who are you? How do you know about Ying and Xiao Shi? This place is heavily guarded, and there are people guarding the door. How did you get in? And how are Ying and Xiao Shi now?" Lu Ying and Lu Shi's mother, Wang Xuefen, married the boss of F Province's largest underground gang, Hong Tiniu. A woman who abandoned her family and children was the most disgusting existence in the world. But when Wang Xuefen heard about Lu Ying and Lu Shi, she looked worried. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that your children are not living well. Yun Jian said. Hearing Yun Jian say that Lu Ying and Lu Shi were not doing well, Wang Xuefen covered her face and cried softly. Ying, little Shi, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. After a while, when Wang Xuefen calmed down, Yun Jian learned the truth from Wang Xuefen. Wang Xuefen didn't abandon her family. A few years ago, when Wang Xuefen and her husband entered the city, they accidentally met the boss of the biggest underground gang in Ji province, Hong Tiniu. Wang Xuefen was beautiful. Even now, her beauty had not been worn down by time. At that time, Hong Tiniu had used his authority to forcefully take Wang Xuefen away. Wang Xuefen and her husband were afraid that Hong Tiniu would hurt their child, so they lied to Lu Ying and Lu Shi that Wang Xuefen had run away with another man. Even their grandmother did not know the truth. After all, with Hong Tiniu's power, if ordinary families like them wanted to forcefully go against him, they might not even be able to keep their lives. Wang Xuefen thought she would never be able to go back in this lifetime. However, Hong Tiniu knew that Wang Xuefen's heart was not here, so he had been locking Wang Xuefen in the villa for many years, not allowing her to take half a step out of the villa. When she heard that Lu Ying and Lu Shi's father had passed away in an accident, Wang Xuefen's face was lifeless, and her tears could not stop flowing. Don't cry, come with me. Yun Jian saw the situation and said, Go. No, I can't go. Young lady, I'm already very grateful that you told me what happened at home. I can't implicate you. Hong Tiniu is a ruthless person. I don't know how many people have died in his hands. I'm afraid. Wang Xuefen was afraid that she would implicate Yun Jian, so she shook her head in pain. Yun Jian's eyebrows, which had just calmed down, suddenly raised slightly. Before Wang Xuefen could finish speaking, she suddenly smiled. Looks like you have to leave even if you don't want to. When Wang Xuefen heard that, she didn't know what she meant. In the next second, there were footsteps and shouts outside the door. Quick, go to Madam's room. Someone has broken into Madam's room. Not long after, a tall and strong middle-aged man with average looks kicked open the door. Seeing that Yun Jian had no intention of hiding and was standing there openly, the middle-aged man glared at Yun Jian and threatened. Young lady, you've got guts. How dare you break into my Hong Tinia's room? Do you not want to be in the underworld anymore? The middle-aged man who had rushed into the room with a group of brothers was the boss of Ji province's biggest gang, Hong Tiniu. Ji province was the same as Ji province. They were both provinces. Hong Tiniu was the boss of Ji province's gang. On a certain level, he was on the same level as Yun Jian, who was a Russian. When he saw Yun Jian's face clearly, he saw that Yun Jian was only an 18-year-old girl. Hong Tiniu sneered and said, Young lady, you're so young, but you've got some skills. You can actually avoid all the surveillance cameras and my brothers. But no matter who you are, you're going to die here today. As the boss of a province's gang, Hong Tiniu's aura was naturally strong. No. It's my fault. I was too bored, that's why I called her here. Let her go, let her go. Wang Xuefen quickly stood in front of Yun Jian and said to Hong Tiniu. Hong Tiniu obviously wouldn't let Yun Jian die just like that. The way these beasts dealt with beautiful young ladies was usually to gang rape them before killing them. Wang Xuefen was so scared that her face turned ashen. Just as the men behind Hong Tiniu were smirking at Yun Jian's pretty face and alluring figure, thinking that Yun Jian was already theirs, the men behind Hong Tiniu smirked. Yun Jian grabbed Wang Xuefen's collar and pulled her away. After that, Yun Jian stared straight at Hong Tiniu in front of everyone. Her aura that was not inferior to Hong Tiniu's was on full display as she curled her lips into a smirk and said something that left everyone dumbfounded. Is this how the Tiango gang of Province Ji receives me, the Rakshasa, from Russia? Or, Ji Province's Tiango gang is going to officially declare war on Ji Province's Falcon Hall? A. Chapter 2095. Facing Hong Tiniu, the leader of the #1 gang in Province Ji, and his underlings. Yun Jian, who was only 18 years old, did not show any hint of fear or trepidation. On the contrary, she looked straight into Hong Tiniu's eyes and said those words in front of everyone without any fear. His words and actions were enough to make Hong Tinyu and the group of brothers behind him exclaim in admiration. But what did Yunjian just say? Rakshasa? Je Province's Falcon Hall? Wasn't Rakshasa of Je Province's Falcon Hall the terrifying woman who took over a small gang in Je Province and developed it into the #1 gang in Je Province in the shortest time possible? It was said that the woman's ability was invincible. Moreover, although Falcon Hall was a gang in the same province as many other gangs, Falcon Hall's ability was much more powerful than the gangs in other provinces. At least now, the gangs in other provinces would take a detour when they heard about Falcon Hall. They would rather take a long detour than fight with Falcon Hall. That was because Falcon Hall's ability was too strong. There were even rumors that Rakshasa would lead Falcon Hall to become the leader of the underground gangs in Country Z sooner or later. But today, an 18-year-old girl stood in front of everyone and called herself Rakshasa, the boss of Falcon Hall? Rakshasa founded Falcon Hall 3 years ago. You weren't even 15 years old 3 years ago, right? Are you going to say that you founded Falcon Hall when you were 15? What a joke. Big brother. This girl is obviously bluffing. Wait until we catch this girl and let our brothers take turns to enjoy her. Then we'll know if she's an imposter or not. Heh. The middle-aged man standing next to Hong Tinyu rubbed his hands together and smiled. He squinted his eyes and gestured at Yun Jian's voluptuous breasts from 5 to 6 meters away. This perverted middle-aged man even gestured as if he was grabbing Yun Jian's breasts. Of course, the middle-aged man squinted his eyes and fantasized about it from 5 to 6 meters away. In reality, he was not even 1 meter away from Yun Jian. It was me who had nothing to do, so I called her to my room to chat with me. She didn't do anything. Let her go. Wang Xuefen was so scared that she lost her composure. She was scared because she was afraid that Yun Jian would be ruined by Hong Tinyu and his group of scum. It wasn't like such a thing had never happened before. When Wang Xuefen first arrived here, she had met a young lady. At that time, the girl was about Yun Jian's age. She got along well with Wang Xuefen. Later, when she heard about Wang Xuefen's background, she planned an escape for her. In the end, Wang Xuefen and the little girl were caught. The little girl had been gang-raped to death by Hong Tinyu's group of scum because she had protected Wang Xuefen's escape. Wang Xuefen had seen the little girl die with her own eyes. She would never forget this pain for the rest of her life. Therefore, at this moment, Wang Xuefen was afraid that Yun Jian would be killed by her. Moreover, he had died in such a humiliating manner. Since then, the number of guards guarding Wang Xuefen in the villa increased. Oh, madam, why are you in such a hurry? Hee. Not only did this little brat cover for your escape, she even pretended to be the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa. Just based on these 2 points alone, how could we let her go? Hee. That vulgar middle-aged man rubbed his hands and looked at Yun Jian. His saliva was about to drip from the side of his mouth. Speaking of which, madam, you can only blame yourself for this. You said that we gang-raped that little girl to death because of you. Today, we don't know where you found this little girl from. Aren't you asking us to make a move on her? As the vulgar middle-aged man spoke, he had already walked towards Yun Jian. At that moment, Yun Jian's eyes darkened. She, who had been silent earlier, suddenly spoke up. You guys once killed a little girl who was about my age? Hee, little brat, the word killed doesn't sound good. That little girl was too weak to stand up to the wind. After we took turns ***king her a few times, she died. Who can you blame? But don't worry, little brat. You're so beautiful. We can't bear to let you die. The vulgar middle-aged man had already walked within 3 meters of Yun Jian and was speaking vulgarly in front of everyone. However, just as he stepped within 3 meters of Yun Jian, a gunshot rang out. Unknowingly, Yun Jian was holding a silver pistol in her hand. The gun in her hand was so fast that before anyone could react, the bullet had already shot out and pierced through the vulgar middle-aged man's head. A second before the middle-aged man's eyes widened and he lost consciousness. Yun Jian spoke in front of Hong Tinyu and everyone else with an indifferent expression. Since you can't bear to let me die, then I'll have to trouble you to die. Chapter 2096. When the crowd finally reacted, they did not see the perverted middle-aged man assaulting Yun Jian. Instead, they saw a bright bullet piercing through his head and nailing him to the wall behind him. The sleazy middle-aged man widened his eyes and stared at Yun Jian for 2 seconds with narrowed pupils. 2 seconds later, the perverted middle-aged man fell to the ground and stopped breathing after Yun Jian finished her sentence. F***CK. This woman killed the third leader of the Tiango gang. One of the men behind Hong Tiniu shouted with his eyes wide open. The dead perverted middle-aged man was Lin Bulang, the third leader of the biggest gang in Province Ji, the Tiango gang. Lin Bulang was the third leader of the Tiango gang. He was lustful and spent every night with beautiful women. He did not care about the Tiango gang's affairs. Therefore, Lin Bulang's first thought when he saw Yun Jian was his perverted thoughts. Everyone was shocked that Yun Jian had taken out a gun and killed Lin Bulang. At the same time, Wang Xuefen, who thought that she would kill Yun Jian, was shocked too. The young lady carried a gun with her. The villa was heavily guarded. If Yun Jian could enter the villa without being noticed, it meant that she was not an ordinary person. Wang Xuefen did not even know who Yun Jian was when she said that she was the boss of Zhe Province's Falcon Hall, Luo Sha. However, the scene of Yun Jian taking out a gun and killing Lin Bulang caused an uproar. Boss, this young lady has guts. She dared to kill the third leader in front of you. Brothers, let's kill her. A man standing behind Hong Tiniu smiled happily when he saw Lin Bulang dead. However, he pretended to be furious that Lin Bulang was killed by Yun Jian. The man was Song Qing, who was promoted by Hong Tiniu after the Tiango gang became the biggest gang in Province Ji. Other than the boss Hong Tiniu, there were also the second and third leaders in the Tiango gang. Now that Lin Bulang, the third leader, was dead, Song Qing, who had always been dissatisfied with Lin Bulang's beauty, was surprised and delighted. Another reason was that once the third master Lin Bulang died, the position of the third master would be reselect. He, Song Qing, was determined to win this position. Song Qing was thinking of rushing forward to kill Yun Jian before Lin Bulang died. That way, he would be able to increase his chances of competing for the position of the third master in the future. Hong Tiniu narrowed his eyes and waved his hand at Song Qing, signaling him to stop. Then, he fixed his gaze on Yun Jian. Falcon Hall's boss Rakshasa? Do you know the consequences of impersonating Falcon Hall's boss, Rakshasa? Hong Tiniu was a smart man. He tried to test Yun Jian. He didn't have any real ability or an imposing aura when he faced problems. He was making a fuss over the death of a member of his own sect. How could such a person become the leader of the biggest gang in Ji province? I don't want to know the consequences. I only know one thing. Today, I will take Wang Xuefen and leave. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Yun Jian looked straight into Hong Tiniu's eyes fearlessly as he said those words. Haha. You said you want to take my Xuefen away? Then today, even if you are Rakshasa, you won't be able to leave this place. Hong Tiniu's face changed when he heard that Yun Jian wanted to take Wang Xuefen away. Hong Tiniu waved his hand and shouted to his brothers behind him, set up the Tiango gang's inescapable net. Even if she is Rakshasa, she won't be able to escape today. The Tiango gang's inescapable net was well known throughout the country. It was said that none of the members of the underworld who fought against the Tiango gang had ever escaped from the Tiango gang's inescapable net. Wang Xuefen's face turned pale when she heard that Hong Tiniu wanted to escape from the inescapable net. Who hadn't heard of the Tiango gang's inescapable net? It was a move that specialized in capturing the strong. Inescapable net? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes when she heard that. She suddenly put away her pistol and stood there empty-handed. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Hong Tiniu. I've never heard of the Tiango gang's inescapable net, but the inescapable net that you speak of that is capable of trapping me. I would like to give it a try. Chapter 2097. A net that could trap Yun Jian? Interesting. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. Yun Jian's words made Hong Tiniu slightly nervous. Had she not heard of the Tiango gang's net that was well known throughout the country? Was she not afraid? But due to his confidence in the Tiango gang's net, Hong Tiniu narrowed his eyes and looked at Yun Jian. He smiled and said to Song Qing, who was standing behind him, Song Qing, immediately set up the net. Today, I want her to be unable to escape. The net that Hong Tiniu spoke of was actually to wear down the opponent's stamina. When the opponent's strength could not keep up, the net would capture the opponent in one fell swoop. There would be a time when everyone would run out of stamina. For example, Let's say you fought with someone. The first time you won, you immediately fought with another person after you won. At this time, your stamina would have been depleted from the first fight. Hence, when you fought with the second person, your stamina would be at a disadvantage. If you won against the second person, you would continue to fight with the third and fourth person. Then, when your stamina was depleted, even if the opponent was a child, they would be able to stab you to death. This was the true face of Hong Tinyu's Tiango Gang's net. And Hong Tinyu was not stupid. Compared to many people before him, he was much smarter. If one thought that Hong Tinyu only found ordinary people, then one would be gravely mistaken. Hong Tinyu could afford to hire a high-level assassin, but he used this sum of money to hire over 100 low-level assassins from around the world. With over 100 low-level assassins working together to deal with one person, no matter how strong that person was, there would be a time when their stamina would be depleted. Hong Tinyu's net referred to the 100 low-level assassins that he hired over a long period of time to deal with one person. This was the Tiango Gang's biggest trump card. Hearing Hong Tinyu's words, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed even more. Hong Tinyu, you can't do this to her. If you dare to do this to her, I'll kill myself. I'll commit suicide for you to see. Wang Xueqi panicked. She didn't want to see another tragedy happen. Stealing her heart, Wang Xueqi rushed to the side and smashed a vase in the room. She picked up the broken pieces of the vase and stuck them to her neck. Let her go. I'll stay, or I'll die in front of you right now. Wang Xueqi stretched her hand that was holding the broken vase towards her neck. Xueqi, you. Seeing this, Hong Tinyu sighed. Hong Tinyu truly liked Wang Xueqi. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used his power to threaten Wang Xueqi after falling in love with her at first sight. If Hong Tinyu didn't truly like Wang Xueqi, after getting Wang Xueqi, he should have lost interest in Wang Xueqi long ago. Who cared if she left or stayed? But why did he order people to protect Wang Xueqi? He was afraid that Wang Xueqi would leave him. Xueqi, put it down. Put it down and I'll let her go. Hong Tinyu was afraid that Wang Xueqi would really take things too hard, so he spoke softly. When I leave, I'll take her with me. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian walked up to Wang Xueqi in a few steps. She took the broken vase from Wang Xueqin's hand and threw it far away. Moreover, I really want to see the legendary inescapable net of the Tiango Gang. As she spoke, Yun Jian turned around and looked at Hong Tinyu and the others. Her cold lips curled up and she smiled faintly. A strange look flashed through her eyes, causing Hong Tinyu and the others to panic for no reason. Xueqi begged for your life but you don't appreciate it. Don't blame me for what happens next. Hong Tinyu clenched his fists and said when he heard Yun Jian's tone that she was determined to take Wang Xueqi away. Boss, the inescapable net has been set up. At this moment, Song Qing walked in from outside and whispered into Hong Tinyu's ear. Hearing this, Hong Tinyu laughed at Yun Jian. Then I'll let you experience the power of the Tiango Gang's inescapable net. Even if you're the boss of Zhe Province's Falcon Hall, Luo Sha, unless you have an impenetrable body, how can you deal with the inescapable net formed by 100 low-level assassins of the Tiango Gang? Hong Tinyu's words made Yun Jian squint her eyes. 100 low-level assassins? Hearing Yun Jian's question, Hong Tinyu thought that Yun Jian was afraid. The group of brothers standing behind Hong Tinyu also grinned. So what if she was really the boss of Falcon Hall, Luo Sha? If she was really the boss of Falcon Hall, then the Tiango Gang would be invincible once they killed the boss of Falcon Hall. Just as the group assumed that Yun Jian was scared out of her wits, Yun Jian, who stood in front of them, smirked and uttered her arrogant words. You're right, I'm not going to let you go. A mere 100 low-level assassins want to block my path? Tiango Gang of Province G. Looks like the inescapable net that you're talking about is just this. A. Chapter 2098. It had to be mentioned that Hong Tinyu was indeed smart. If it was someone else, they would rather hire a powerful high-level assassin than use the money to hire a powerful high-level assassin to hire 100 low-level assassins. But Hong Tinyu did the opposite. In fact, although the strength of a high-level assassin was powerful, there was a limit to his strength. 1 chopstick was easy to break, but 10 chopsticks were hard to break. 3 cobblers were better than 1 zhuge liang. These 2 proverbs were the same as how 100 low-level assassins could compete with a high-level assassin. Even Yun Jian had to be on full alert when facing 100 low-level assassins. But, why did she still say such arrogant words after knowing all these? Yun Jian's words were not for anything else, but because she wanted to challenge herself. Perhaps others would think that she, Yun Jian, was powerful enough to reach this stage. But to Yun Jian, her life had just begun. Endlessly challenging the strong, exploding her strength in desperate situations, that was Yun Jian's life goal. What she wanted was to have a fight to the death with those 100 low-level assassins. Sure enough, Hong Tinyu was quickly enraged. He raged. Kill. Set up an inescapable net and kill her. After saying that, more than 10 masked assassins rushed in from outside the door, leading the vanguard to surround Yun Jian in a circle from different angles. Yun Jian pushed Wang Xueqi away. Surrounded by more than 10 masked assassins, she fearlessly took out 2 butterfly knives from her thighs and held them in her hands. These 2 butterfly knives were given to her by Mu Ying. Holding the 2 butterfly knives in her hands, she gently raised the red arc. Then, let me try and see if you, the 100 low-level assassins, are stronger, or if I am stronger. After her rebirth, she had almost retired from the assassin and agent circle. It had been almost 3 years since she had accepted a mission from the assassin and agent website. Today, the 100 low-level assassins surrounding her reminded her of the past. Seeing Yun Jian holding the 2 butterfly knives in her hands, the low-level assassins who rushed in were slightly stunned. Their pupils constricted, as if they thought of a terrifying person who also used butterfly knives. In spite of it, a dozen low-level assassins charged toward Yun Jian with their weapons in hand. Kill. Kill her. In Hong Tinyu's words. Kill her directly. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the assassins held their weapons and rushed towards Yun Jian. Yun Jian, who was supposed to be panicking and looking at the assassins around her, only indifferently turned the butterfly knives so that the blades were below her and held the hilts. More than a dozen assassins came at her from different angles. At the same time, Yun Jian raised a brow and shifted her legs slightly. Abruptly, right in front of Hong Tinyu and the others, she rolled on the ground and stood on one knee agilely with a slight lift of her hand. At this moment, she turned to look at the other assassins. She didn't even look at the position in her hand. The blade of the butterfly knife in her hand had already pierced through the throat of the first low-level assassin who couldn't react in time. One knife to the throat. This speed was so fast that no one present could react in time. This low-level assassin had already fallen to the ground and was no longer breathing. The other low-level assassin's pupils constricted. Just as they were about to attack Yun Jian from the side, they saw Yun Jian kick the low-level assassin's abdomen after his throat was slit. At the same time, she turned around and nimbly moved the butterfly knives at a speed that no one could see clearly. She flashed past the low-level assassins. By the time everyone reacted, Yun Jian had already brushed past a dozen low-level assassins. Her figure was clearly engraved in front of Hong Tinyu and the rest. After her figure flashed past, the low-level assassins all fell to the ground without exception. There weren't many people in the house. The remaining 80 low-level assassins surrounded the door and waited for the second attack. More than 10 low-level assassins died under her blade in 10 seconds. One low-level assassin was killed in 1 second. When Hong Tinyu and the rest in the house reacted, they looked over and saw that the low-level assassins had all fallen to the ground. When they saw clearly that the low-level assassins' necks, right below their chins, in the middle of their throats, were all stabbed in the same spot. The fatal spots of the low-level assassins were all in one place. At this moment, Yun Jian was already standing at the door and looking at the 80 low-level assassins standing outside. At the same time, she was stepping on the corpse of a low-level assassin who couldn't react in time. She held the butterfly knife with both hands and looked like an emissary from hell. The blade was so fast that it killed the low-level assassins without a single drop of blood on the blade. When Hong Tinyu and the rest saw this scene, their hearts suddenly tightened. In 10 seconds, she killed more than 10 low-level assassins. Her figure was like a ghost. Her blade was so fast that it didn't even have a single drop of blood on it. Just who was she? Chapter 2099. Yun Jian had used less than 10 seconds to finish off the first batch of low-level assassins who had rushed into the house with her butterfly knives. Her speed shocked Hong Tinyu and the rest. Stop. 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 I promise you. Hong Tinyu's eyes darted around. Seeing that the situation was not good, he made a prompt decision to stop Yunjian. The commission for hiring 100 low-level assassins was not cheap. With 10 low-level assassins dead, the Tiango gang had suffered a great loss. If Yunjian continued to kill, Hong Tinyu was certain that Yunjian had the ability to kill 100 low-level assassins from the Tiango gang. Then, the Tiango gang would be finished. Such a terrifying woman, she must be the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa. I'll stop just because you ask me to. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Yunjian held the 2 butterfly knives in her hands and walked towards the 80 low-level assassins as she spoke. However, before Yunjian walked out of the door, Hong Tinyu made another concession. I'll let you take my wife away. As long as you let go, I, Hong Tinyu, will promise you 3 things in the future. As long as I can do it, I won't go back on my words. I swear on the name of the Tiango gang. Hong Tinyu's words made Yunjian, who had achieved her goal, put the butterfly knives back into the tight parts of her thighs. Although the people in the underworld were all gangsters, they were the most loyal. Even though they may be distasteful in some ways. Yunjian heard this and looked at Hong Tinyu from the corner of her eyes. She planned to stop now. Remember what you said. After that, she beckoned Wang Xuefen to leave with her. Wang Xuefen was stunned when she left. She did not expect Hong Tinyu to really let go. Although it was good to use the 100 low-level assassins as practice, Yunjian was not stupid enough to get herself into trouble. Although the Heavenly Dog Gang was beneath her notice, having one more enemy meant that she would have one more person to kick her when she was down one day. When a person was in their prime, they could trample on anyone and treat them like ants. However, there was one thing that they had to remember. If one day they accidentally fell from grace, then the people that they had offended in the past would do everything they could to make them fall into hell. As for you, who is in dire straits, you might not even be able to resist an ant. Not to mention a group of ants. Yunjian knew this very well, so when she made a move, she either cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future trouble, or she would stop at a certain point. Seeing that Yunjian had left with Wang Xuefen, Song Qing was still thinking about the position of the third elder. Thus, he went to Hong Tinyu's ear and whispered, "Boss, do you want me to send someone to kill her? Bring Madam back." Can you do it? Hong Tinyu pushed Song Qing away. What about Madam? Are we just going to watch Madam return to that destitute countryside? Song Qing asked again. I have my own plans. Hong Tinyu shouted angrily. He kicked the door open and walked out. Yunjian brought Wang Xuefen and rushed back to Wuzhen Dali village overnight. When Lu Ying and Lu Shi saw that Wang Xuefen had returned, both of them were stunned. Is it Mom? Sister really brought Mom back? Did we really see Mom? Lu Ying stood there in disbelief. When Wang Xuefen left, her younger brother Lu Shi was still young. When he saw Wang Xuefen, blood was thicker than water. Relying on his family, he immediately pounced on her. Mom. After Wang Xuefen left and her father passed away, Lu Ying, who was only 10 years old, took on the job of supporting the family. When she saw Wang Xuefen, she was stunned. She stood there in a daze and did not move for a long time. Ying. When Wang Xuefen saw Lu Ying, tears flowed down her face. She carried her son Lu Shi, walked over, squatted down, and hugged Lu Ying. Then, she cried bitterly. Yunjian saw this and smiled slightly. Then, she walked out of the door and left some space for her mother and child, who she had not seen for a long time. Just as she stepped out of the door, her phone beeped with a text message. It was from Qin Yiru and the message read, "You're reading this from me. Xiao Jian, come home this weekend. Something happened at home. A." Chapter 2100. Qin Yiru did not mention what had happened in the message. Qin Yiru usually did not send messages. If she could send her a message, it meant that something must have happened at home. Yunjian typed the word "yes" in the text message editing box on her phone and clicked send. Then, she hid her phone in her trouser pocket and walked to the door. Mommy, it's Mommy. Mommy is really back. Ying is not dreaming, right? Sister said that Mommy would definitely come back. Sister did not lie to Ying. Lu Ying's trembling voice rang out. There was a trace of disbelief in her trembling voice, but she could not help but believe it. Even though Yunjian was standing outside the door, She could feel the trembling that came from the depths of Lu Ying's soul. After her mother left and her father passed away, a teenager took on the responsibility of supporting the family. She had to take care of her sick grandmother and take care of her younger brother to and from school. She even had to work in the fields, raise chickens, ducks, and sheep to support the family. This was indescribable for a child who was still 7 or 8 years away from adulthood. Many people went to university empty-handed and had to ask their parents for money to eat and drink well every day. And for a child from a poor mountain area, she did not even have the right to have a full childhood. After Wang Xuefen and the 2 children cried and calmed down, they insisted that Yun Jian stay for a few days. However, Yun Jian insisted that she leave that night. Wang Xuefen took the 2 children and sent Yun Jian on the mountain road for a few hours. She bowed and thanked Yun Jian as she sent Yun Jian out of Wuzhen. She almost knelt down to Yun Jian. The moment Yun Jian left, Lu Ying looked at her and suddenly asked, "What's the matter? Sister, will you come again in the future?" Although she had only spent a few days with Yun Jian had found the most important mother in her life. To Lu Ying, Yun Jian was different. Maybe. Yun Jian did not give a definite answer. If big sister can't find me, I'll find big sister in the future. The teacher said that as long as I study hard, I can leave Wuzhen and study in a big city. Sister, I will study hard. Lu Ying seemed to have made up her mind. She shouted at Yun Jian. Yes. Yun Jian nodded. Then she left Wuzhen. The next morning was Friday. The weather on Friday was very hazy. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the wind was a little strong. After December, the weather was gradually approaching winter. In this kind of weather, it seemed as if it would drizzle at any time. In winter, there was rarely thunder. Yun Jian wore a pure white down jacket, which made her complexion look just right. After checking the results of the martial arts club members' training in the morning, Yun Jian took the bus back to Longmen City. On the way back, he returned with Liang Xiumin. Liang Xiumin, the daughter of a rich family, was ordered by her father to take the bus home in the future. Perhaps it was because she had gone to the poor mountainous area. Liang Xiumin's spoiled temper was much toned down. Just as she parted ways with Liang Xiumin at the station and returned home, Yun Jian saw Qin Yiru with a white mourning cloth tied around her head and another piece of mourning cloth tied around her hand. Yun Yi was sitting beside her. Yun Yi was dressed similarly to Qin Yiru, but the difference was that Yun Yi had a white mourning dress draped over her. "Xiao Jian, you're back?" Qin Yiru asked tiredly when she saw Yun Jian. Mom, what's wrong?" Yun Jian asked. "Your grandmother passed away. She took a stab for your biological father," Qin Yiru explained. Wearing mourning clothes meant that someone in the family had passed away. Her grandmother was Lu Lanhua and her biological father was Yun Gang. Yun Jian did not feel anything when she heard that. Qin Yiru came over and told Yun Jian earnestly, "Even if she didn't treat us well, she shouldn't have passed away. No matter how bad she was to us when she was alive, it's reasonable for us to send her off. Xiao Yi and I went to the crematorium today and we'll bury her tomorrow. Xiao Jian, you should go too. She wasn't your biological grandmother, but we were born in the countryside. You'll be laughed at if you don't go." Chapter 2101. After Qin Yiru knew that Yun Jian was not the real Yun Jian, she did not force her to do anything anymore. However, a girl's reputation was very important. Even if Yun Jian already had CE, even if she was not the real Yun Jian. At least, in Qin Yiru's opinion, she did not want to be gossiped about. In the countryside, no matter how the elderly treated you when they were alive, if you were calculative after they passed away, you would be the one who would be gossiped about. Lu Lanhua did not die of illness. Yun Gang was being hunted down by the people who lost the gamble 2 years ago. He had been on the run for 2 years and his debt from the loan sharks had grown. Yun Gang had left Longmen City and Zhe Province to hide from the loan sharks for 2 years. He had returned to Longmen City this time to repent and take his old mother away from here to start a new life. He did not expect the loan sharks to rush to his door to collect the debt when they learned of his return. Both parties had a dispute and Lu Lanhua had taken a stab for Yun Gang when one of them stabbed him in the heart. The loan sharks were afraid of a life after all, so they fled in fright when they saw Lu Lanhua taking a stab for Yun Gang. Yun Jian did not feel anything even when she heard this. Lu Lanhua's death didn't bring her any sadness. Yun Jian, on the other hand, only looked at where Yun Yi was not far away. She saw her brother Yun Yi's blank expression, obviously sorrowful. It was not hard to understand. Lu Lanhua favored boys over girls and scoffed at Yun Jian and Qin Yiru. But she was really good to Yun Yi. From the original owner's memories, Lu Lanhua had saved a few days' worth of food for Yun Yi just to buy a piece of meat for him to eat. She wanted to eat something good, so she could save a few days' worth of food for him. To Yun Jian and Qin Yiru, Lu Lanhua was detestable, but to Yun Yi, she was also a good grandmother who had been very kind to her. People were like this. Even if a person treated you badly, that person would still have people they wanted to treat well, and they would also have their own circle of life. Yun Jian could not help sighing. Of course, Yun Jian could not restrain Yun Yi and make Yun Yi not feel sad after Lu Lanhua's death like her. Everyone's way of life was different, and outsiders treated them differently as well. Yun Jian would not restrain anyone from hating someone she detested. There was only one thing she could do. If anyone bullied her, she would pay them back 100-fold. She would not interfere with how the person who bullied her treated others. Coming back to reality, Yun Jian stared at Yun Yi, who was wiping his tears in silence for 2 seconds before asking Qin Yiru, "Does Mom want me to go?" "Yes." Not because of anything else, but because of Qin Yiru's words, Yun Jian agreed. Early on Saturday morning, around 4 a.m, Yun Jian did not have time to go for her morning exercise. She took the car back to Xinjiang town with Qin Yiru and Yun Yi. This time, Qin Yiru had already gotten Gu Yunjian's permission to send Lu Lanhua back. Gu Junjian was a soldier and was extremely righteous. Naturally, he would not be calculative about this. When sending the deceased up the mountain to be buried, they usually had to wake up early. When Yun Jian and the other two arrived at Xinjiang town, it was already past 6 a.m. Lu Lanhua's relatives and friends were all there. There were many banquets set up in front of her house. For happy events and funerals in the countryside, they would hold banquets and invite relatives and friends from all walks of life. When Yun Jian arrived, she saw people she did not know. These people naturally had nothing to do with her. When she arrived, it was already past 6 a.m. There were many banquets set up in front of Yun Gang's house. Relatives from all walks of life took their seats. The ones who cooked and served the dishes were usually old women from the countryside. Most of them were gossipy women. These gossipy women were talkative, but when it came to crucial moments, their hearts were not bad. Yun Jian also sat on a bench in front of a banquet table. Actually, there were many mourners this morning, but those who truly cried in pain for the deceased were in the minority. Usually, distant relatives only came to eat a sumptuous breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For distant relatives, the funeral banquet was also a happy occasion. When Yun Jian sat down, some of the distant relatives around them noticed Qin Yiru's arrival. "Isn't this Yun Gang's ex-wife Yiru? Why are you here?" A balding middle-aged man looked at Qin Yiru and asked. There was no hint of sadness from Lu Lanhua's death on his face. "She's the child's grandmother after all. I brought the child here to remember her," explained Qin Yiru, who was genuinely saddened by Lu Lanhua's death. "Oh!" The balding middle-aged man nodded. A middle-aged woman sitting next to the balding middle-aged man glanced at Yun Jian, then asked Qin Yiru, "Sister, this is your daughter. I remember her name is Yun Jian, right?" Then, without waiting for Qin Yiru's reply, the middle-aged woman turned to Yun Jian and asked, "Daughter, why aren't you sad about your grandmother's death?" Once the middle-aged woman asked, the people around them turned to look. However, Yun Jian lifted her head slightly. Her cold eyes moved as she replied indifferently, "Why should I be sad? I." Chapter 2102. Yun Jian's words stunned everyone present. The middle-aged woman was also slightly taken aback. Then she said, "Isn't she your biological grandmother? Look at your brother, he's so sad that he can't eat. Everyone dies eventually. It's not a bad thing for her to be released early." Yun Jian interrupted the middle-aged woman and picked up her chopsticks to eat the breakfast on the table. Lu Lanhua was despicable, but Yun Jian wasn't worried or happy about her death. After Yun Gang borrowed money from the loan sharks, he ran away for 2 years. Yun Zhang was protected by Yun Jian, but those loan sharks didn't dare to mess with Yun Zhang, so they splashed chicken blood and released snakes to Lu Lanhua's house every day. Yunjian had killed so many people. To be honest, even when her younger brother was brutally killed by Lang Sha in her previous life, she didn't feel such extreme despair. She only hated herself for not being strong enough. Perhaps she, Yunjian, was a cold-blooded person. "Io, little girl, are you cursing your grandmother to die early?" This middle-aged woman was really trying to find a topic. After hearing Yunjian's words, she immediately raised her voice and spoke loudly enough that everyone at the surrounding tables could hear her voice. Lu Lanhua's group of relatives and friends obviously didn't know Yunjian's identity. They all thought that Yunjian was just an ordinary young girl who went to school. "Mom, I'm quite sad about Grandaunt's death. This is her biological grandmother. If she's not sad, isn't she a little too inhumane?" A girl who looked about the same age as Yunjian sat beside the middle-aged woman. The girl immediately spoke. The grandaunt that the girl was talking about was Lu Lanhua. Without a doubt, this middle-aged woman was the daughter of Lu Lanhua's biological sister, and the girl was the granddaughter of Lu Lanhua's biological sister. They were considered distant relatives. In fact, that was indeed the case. The girl's name was Hong Junhua. She was 17 years old this year and was in high school. This middle-aged woman's name was Chen Ilan. The bald middle-aged father and son were Hong Junhua's father, Hong Taishan. Yunjian couldn't find anything related to Hong Junhua's distant relatives in the original owner's memories, but she did find something she heard from Qin Yiru. It was said that Lu Lanhua's sister's daughter, who was also Chen Ilan's husband, Hong Taishan, had set up a plastic processing factory a few years ago and made a small fortune. Then, he expanded the plastic processing factory and made a big fortune. Now, they had moved to a first-tier city to live. It was said that they had even bought a sports car, which was very high-end. It could be said that he bought a house in a big city, drove a sports car, and lived in a luxurious mansion. Just now, when Hong Taishan talked to Qin Yiru, it was because he wanted to show off in front of his relatives and friends that he had made a fortune. But if he wanted to show off, he had to find someone, right? Hong Taishan started a conversation with Qin Yiru. Of course, before he could finish, his wife, Chen Ilan, and daughter, Hong Junhua, interrupted him. Chen Ilan and Hong Junhua were feeling smug, thinking that their family had struck it rich. They had to take advantage of Lu Lanhua's funeral to show off and satisfy their vanity. Only Yunjian, Qin Yiru, and a few others were sitting with them, so they naturally found a topic to talk about. People from the countryside were most afraid of being bad-mouthed, especially when a girl's reputation was the most important. At least, Qin Yiru cared a lot about it. It couldn't be helped if she was called old-fashioned. Being born in the countryside, her character was nurtured. Hearing Hong Junhua talk about her daughter like that, Qin Yiru could not help standing up and speaking up. Moreover, there were many gossipy women sitting around them. "My Xiao Jian isn't that kind of person. She's quite kind. Then she's inhumane. She doesn't know how to be sad when her grandmother passes away." Hong Junhua cut her off with the tone she used in school, which she used to speak in a foreign tone to her classmates. As she spoke, Hong Junhua was smug, thinking that she was different from the country bumpkins around her. She went to a high school in a big city. What she said was not on the same level as the country bumpkins around her. Just as Hong Junhua finished her smug declaration, Yunjian had the last mouthful of porridge and put the bowl down. Pressing her lips together, there was not a hint of emotion in her eyes as she spoke coldly. "You're right. You're not the only one who said that I'm inhumane, but you're the only one who's still alive after saying so. Eh?" Chapter 21:14. As the old lady spoke, she attracted everyone's attention. At this time, the handsome man in his early 30s had already gotten out of the silver-gray super sports car and was walking over quickly. The middle-aged man, who was in his 40s and had a big beer belly and exuded the aura of a middle-aged man, walked towards the handsome man in his early 30s with his feet splayed outwards. Then, under the gaze of a group of people who were attracted over, she hugged the handsome man who was in his 30s. Come, let me introduce you. This is my younger cousin, Zhang Junyi." When Junyi heard that his aunt passed away, he immediately flew back from New York in Country M to show his filial piety. He came late today, but his thoughts have been received, haha. The middle-aged man chuckled as he introduced the handsome man who was in his early 30s to the crowd. Zhang Junyi was of the same generation as Qin Yiru and the middle-aged man. However, Zhang Junyi's mother gave birth to him later, so he was more than 10 years older than Qin Yiru and the middle-aged man. Zhang Junyi's mother and Yun Zhong were biological siblings, so they could be considered close relatives. However, Zhang Junyi's relationship with the Yun family wasn't particularly good, so he rarely came back. At least, in Yun Zhen's memories, there was no memory of this person. However, Zhang Junyi and the original owner were technically related by blood, so they could be considered distant relatives. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, someone immediately stood up and asked him, "Little Zhang, is this your younger cousin, the great scientist who made a fortune?" When they heard that Zhang Junyi had made a fortune and that he had gotten out of a silver-gray supercar, the crowd became excited. This silver-gray supercar was obviously more high-end than Chen Yilan's and Hong Taishan's, so the crowd quickly became excited. Zhang Junyi's supercar was comparable to Yun Zhen's Ferrari in terms of appearance. It was hard to tell which car was more expensive. Those who didn't know the industry could only estimate the value of a car based on its appearance. That's right. This kid is extremely rich now. He deals with international business tycoons and peers all day long. Now, he's settled in New York of Country M and even bought an apartment in New York. His net worth is at least tens of millions. The middle-aged man proudly put his arm around Zhang Junyi's shoulder and helped him brag. Zhang Junyi himself didn't look too smug. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the surrounding people were stunned again, and they even let out, oh, sounds of surprise. Zhang Junyi's arrival not only stunned the surrounding people, but even Chen Yilan, who had been focusing on Yun Zhen, also stared at Zhang Junyi. Chen Yilan hated meeting relatives who were richer than her. She glared at Zhang Junyi so fiercely that her eyeballs almost fell out. Zhang Junyi's cousin, the middle-aged man, had long been displeased with Chen Yilan's bragging. Now that he saw Chen Yilan's glare, he cocked his head proudly and said to Zhang Junyi, "Junyi, didn't you recently discover a female corpse with a group of international experts that won't rot? They said that if the research is done well, you can even get a large sum of money. I even took a picture of it. Let's show it to everyone." Zhang Junyi was involved in scientific research. He studied bizarre events that transcended reality. The middle-aged man's words stunned Zhang Junyi. However, Zhang Junyi still took out a photo from his trouser pocket gracefully. The middle-aged man directly snatched the photo from Zhang Junyi and showed it to everyone present one by one. "Look, this is the female corpse that my cousin and the others recently researched. I heard that there are no signs of decomposition even after 3 or 4 years. It's amazing. If my cousin and the experts can research it, they'll probably get a lot of money." Zhang Junyi had once researched something that others couldn't, so he received a lot of money. Now, his family was worth more than tens of millions. He was considered rich in this era. The middle-aged man's words resounded throughout the venue. Hearing this, Zhang Junyi's eyes darkened and he explained, "We haven't started researching this female corpse yet." Before Zhang Junyi could finish, the middle-aged man showed off the photo in front of everyone. The moment the photo flashed before Yun Zhen's eyes, Yun Zhen only glanced at it unintentionally. In the photo was a 16-year-old girl. The girl was wearing a light leather jacket and a pair of tight leather pants. The girl's beautiful figure was wrapped in it, and at the tight part of the leather pants, there was a pistol tied to her thigh. One could tell at a glance that the girl's identity was definitely different from ordinary people. She wore a pair of clean flats and was lying on a wooden bed. She looked so peaceful as if she was just in a deep sleep. When Yun Zhen saw the girl in the photo, she only glanced at her subconsciously. The next second, her eyes darkened and she grabbed the photo. Her sharp eyes moved fiercely as she asked, "Where did you put the girl in the photo?" The girl in the photo was none other than her real self before her rebirth. She was the physical body of slaying God. Chapter 21:15. Yun Jian had sent people to look for her physical body more than once, but it was as if she had disappeared from the world in her previous life. There was no news of her at all. Who would have thought that they would find her body in her previous life here? Zhang Junyi was an international scientific researcher. Although he was only in his 30s, Zhang Junyi's grades were quite good when he was in school. Later he was recommended to study abroad, and he slowly climbed to where he was today. Moreover, he was considered young and promising in this group of people. He was only in his early 30s, But Zhang Junyi had already researched many things that others could not research in their lifetime. In the field of scientific research, if you researched or discovered something new that had a huge impact on a country or even the whole world, then the reward for such a discovery would be enough to provide for you for the rest of your life. Of course, only outstanding people could research or discover new things. Zhang Junyi's brain allowed him to discover many things, and that was how he became rich. Therefore, Zhang Junyi's relatives and friends respectfully called him a great scientist. As for the female corpse in the photo, it was found by someone. When it was found, the female corpse was still lying quietly on the ground. Her cheeks were rosy, and her skin was glossy and elastic. She looked as if she was just in a deep sleep. The person who found the corpse called the female corpse a few times, but there was no response. Therefore, he reached out to check if the female corpse was breathing. In the end, he found that the female corpse was already dead. He was so scared that he quickly called the police. When the person who performed the autopsy came over, he was surprised to find that the female corpse had not decomposed even though she had been dead for 3 to 4 years. Other than the fact that her heart and brain had stopped working, there were no signs of death at all. Normal corpses would start to decompose in less than half a month after death. However, this female corpse had been dead for 3 to 4 years, and there were no signs of decomposition at all. Moreover, the female corpse was not sealed in a huge instrument that would not decompose. In other words, this was a rather bizarre incident. Therefore, in order to ensure the integrity of the corpse, the experts placed the corpse in a tomb that had just been excavated not long ago and guarded it closely. They also prepared to let the researchers gradually study the female corpse in detail in the near future. Ever since the female corpse was found, it had not been studied yet. When Zhang Junyi's cousin found out about this, the middle-aged man wanted to use this matter to show off in front of his relatives and friends. He instantly mentioned that if this research was successful, his cousin would really make a fortune. Therefore, the middle-aged man boasted in front of everyone. After all, they were surrounded by a group of ignorant country bumpkins. It would be best if they were shocked by his boasting. What the middle-aged man did not expect, however, was that Yun Jian would snatch the photo from him and ask where the person in the photo was placed when he was bragging about it. The middle-aged man was stunned. He reached out to grab the photo from Yun Jian's hand and muttered, "Little girl, what do you know? This is a place that only researchers can enter. Only great scientists like my cousin can enter. Even if you ask, you won't be able to enter. Hurry up and take the photos back." The middle-aged man rolled his eyes in his heart and thought to himself, "Children these days are really nosy." He just wanted to show off his cousin, Zhang Junyi, in front of his friends and relatives. Who would have thought that a little girl like Yun Jian would join in on the fun? The middle-aged man wanted to forcibly take the photo back from Yun Jian's hand, but Yun Jian moved sideways and avoided the middle-aged man's attempt to take the photo back from her hand. Yun Jian turned sideways and looked at Zhang Junyi from the corner of her eyes in front of everyone. Her sharp black eyes sized up Zhang Junyi, and she repeated her words, word by word. "Tell me, where is the girl in the photo?" A. Chapter 21:16. Looking at Yun Jian's focused gaze, the people around them blinked. Qin Yiru was serving the dishes while Yun Yi and Qing Yu were not around. Zhang Junyi, who received Yun Jian's gaze, could not help turning to study Yun Jian. This girl's gaze was so sharp. This made Zhang Junyi, who did not take Yun Jian seriously, look at Yun Jian. Just as Zhang Junyi was about to answer, Chen Ilan, who was already at odds with Yun Jian, chuckled in a strange tone. "Yo, hee hee. Pretending to know when you don't? I've never seen a girl like you before. Just because you're young, you scolded my daughter. Hee hee. You even said that my family's car has low specs, making you look so high and mighty. Now you're poking your nose into other people's research. Why do you always have a part in everything?" Chen Ilan, who spoke, rolled her eyes at Yun Jian in what she thought was a flirtatious manner. However, Yun Jian did not mind. She only stared at Zhang Junyi with her gaze that was as sharp as a sword, waiting for his reply. "Junyi, this girl must be out of her mind. Don't bother about her. Just give this photo to her. Come, let's have dinner and drink while we chat." Seeing that Yun Jian did not listen to him, the middle-aged man felt embarrassed. He waved at Zhang Junyi as he spoke, wanting to lead Zhang Junyi to one of the banquet tables that had been set up. In Marilena's tomb in Country M, Zhang Junyi did not listen to the middle-aged man or Chen Yilan. He narrowed his eyes and spoke to Yun Jian after the middle-aged man finished speaking. This little girl attracted his attention. Thank you, Yun Jian retracted her gaze and thanked Zhang Junyi before turning to leave. The moment she turned her back to Zhang Junyi, Yun Jian's eyes flashed with an imperceptible light. What a strange girl. Zhang Junyi shook his head and laughed as he watched Yun Jian walk away. After dinner, everyone returned home. Only a few of Lu Lanhua's closest relatives were still there. After all, Yun Yi had feelings for Lu Lanhua. To Yun Yi, Lu Lanhua was his irreplaceable grandmother. Although he was disgusted by how Lu Lanhua had treated his mother and sister when she was alive. In the evening, Lu Lanhua's closest relatives went up the mountain to light a lantern for her. In the words of the village's superstitions, it was to prevent the deceased from feeling afraid because of the darkness on the mountain on the first night of her burial. Yun Jian waited for Yun Yi and Qin Yiru to be done before they drove back to Longmen City. It was already 7:30 in the evening. Not long after they drove out of Xinjiang town, there was a traffic jam. It was not really a traffic jam. It was the car of Chen Yilan's family, who had been unhappy with Yun Jian since the morning, collided with another car. It was not that serious. It was just the collision of the two cars that scraped against each other and scraped off some paint on the car. The driver of the car coming from the opposite direction said that he had collided with Chen Yilan's family's car and that both parties were responsible, so he did not call the police and settled the matter in private. The driver was in a hurry to leave because he had something urgent to attend to. In the end, Chen Yilan blocked the road like a shrew, demanding the driver to take full responsibility and compensate for her emotional distress. The shrew's tirade was incessant, comparable to the way she scolded Yun Jian earlier. Chen Yilan even parked her family's car in the middle of the road, saying that if the driver did not take full responsibility and compensate for her emotional distress, no one should drive on this road. Her shameless behavior made the driver frown. Chen Yilan left late today as well, but she had been stuck here for half an hour already. Just as the driver was rushing for time, thinking that he would just pay for the shrew he met today, he suddenly saw Yun Jian alighting from a Ferrari sports car. The moment he saw Yun Jian, the driver's eyes shone. He even abandoned his car and stumbled toward Yun Jian in front of Chen Yilan and everyone else. New Cruise's director. I heard that you went back to your hometown, so I came looking for you. Hello. I'm Su Wenzhong, Shengdi's director. Chapter 21:17. New Cruise's director. Chen Yilan put her hands on her waist. She was quite fat and didn't look very good. Her nose was very big, and her nostrils were so big that they were about the size of an adult's finger. Her nose was flat, her face was round, and her face was full of wrinkles. However, she was wearing lipstick and foundation that made her look like a young girl. New Cruise's director. The driver who had just collided with her sports car had actually rushed over and addressed Yun Jian as New Cruise's director. He had even used such a respectful tone. Chen Yilan was dumbfounded. She stared blankly at the scene before her. Yun Jian. This girl who was about the same age as her daughter, Hong Junhua, and whom she had not treated with respect before, was actually the internationally renowned director of New Cruise. That was impossible. Moreover, the driver she had just argued with was once the director of the largest car marketing company in Country Z, Saint Disco. New Cruise and Saint Disco were both renowned car marketing companies in Country Z. Before New Cruise, Saint Disco was once the largest car marketing company in Country Z. Now, not only had New Cruise taken away Saint Disco's title as the largest car marketing company in Country Z, it had even stepped onto the international platform before Saint Disco. Of course, even with New Cruise, Saint Disco's reputation was not something that Chen Yilan and the rest, who had started their business in plastic processing and had some savings, could compete with. To make an analogy, it was like the difference between an ant and an elephant. Chen Yilan's face was as white as a sheet. Her body froze instantly like a puppet whose strings had been cut. She was stunned on the spot. Just as Chen Yilan's face was as white as a sheet, Saint Disco's director, Su Wenzhong, spoke to Yun Jian respectfully and carefully. New Cruise's director, it's like this. Ever since New Cruise stepped onto the international platform, Saint Disco's monthly car sales have been on a downward trend. If this continues, Saint Disco won't be able to continue operating at a loss. Look at you. You're so young and yet you've managed to get to where you are today. I'm truly amazed by your capabilities. Since we're in the same industry, can you give Saint Disco some leeway? The CEO of Shengdi, Su Wenzhong, spoke carefully to Yun Jian. It was obvious that Su Wenzhong's Shengdi had always been New Cruise's competitor. Now that New Cruise had entered the international market, the first big car company that the citizens in the country chose to buy cars was New Cruise. The main reason was that not only was New Cruise's prices affordable, but the car salesman's service was top-notch as well. If word of this brand got out, they could even flaunt their wealth. Under such circumstances, Su Wenzhong's Shengdi company's sales were declining day by day. Today, Su Wenzhong's Shengdi company could no longer operate its funds. If this continued, it was very likely that it would face bankruptcy. Left with no choice, Su Wenzhong heard that New Cruise's director would be coming to Xinjiang town today, so he drove there without stopping to rest. Since he heard that the director of New Cruise was a young lady, Su Wenzhong had rushed over to see if he could get some sympathy from the director of New Cruise to spare them. After all, she was a young girl. Not to mention that she was a girl, she didn't have much life experience and was very easy to fool. Perhaps if he said a few more words, she would agree? As long as she spared his Shengdi company, it would only be a matter of time before he made a comeback and toppled New Cruise. In ancient times, there was a case of the king of Yu, Go Jian, gifting a beauty to the king of Wu, Fu Chai. In the end, he endured the humiliation and destroyed the Wu kingdom. As long as he could fool this young lady into sparing him today, he wouldn't have to worry about Shengdi not being able to topple New Cruise in the future. He, Su Wenzhong, refused to accept that his once largest car company in country Z had been snatched away by a young lady who had just come of age. However, just as Su Wenzhong thought that Yun Jian would agree, Yun Jian tilted her head to look at Su Wenzhong and denied it. No. Su Wenzhong was stunned as he thought that as a girl, Yun Jian would be too embarrassed to reject him. By then, Yun Jian had one foot in her red Ferrari sports car. Before she closed the door, she glanced at Su Wenzhong from the corner of her eyes and left him with a merciless remark. Perhaps after your company goes bankrupt, I can be merciful and buy your company at a high price. A. Chapter 21:18. After that, Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile. She looked like she was sneering and mocking at the same time. She got into the red Ferrari right in front of everyone. A young lady in her prime would probably not be able to shed all pretenses of cordiality when faced with such a situation. Girls cared a lot about their reputation and were too embarrassed to reject people most of the time. Su Wenzhong initially thought that Yun Jian would be the same, which was why he boldly came to beg Yun Jian to let Shengdi off the hook. He wanted to give Shengdi a few car orders from New Cruise. Su Wenzhong had even prepared a contract that was beneficial to Shengdi. As long as he tricked Yun Jian into signing and stamping on the contract, it would be legally binding. Then, even if New Cruise did not want to admit it, they would still have to split half of the sales with him. If Yun Jian was a normal university student, she might have signed and stamped her name, falling into Su Wenzhong's trap after being lured in by Su Wenzhong's embellished words. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. That saying made sense. However, Yun Jian was not a normal university student. Therefore, before Su Wenzhong could use his words to trick Yun Jian rejected him decisively. She even said that after Su Wenzhong's company went bankrupt, she would be merciful and buy his company at a high price. Su Wenzhong almost vomited blood when he heard that. However, Su Wenzhong held it in. So you're still not going to let us pass, Mr. CEO of Shengdi? Yun Jian raised her brows and threatened Su Wenzhong. Su Wenzhong clenched his fists and ran to make way for them. After all, he did not have the right to be arrogant in front of Yun Jian. With New Cruise's current capabilities, it was not impossible for them to trip up Shengdi. After the road was cleared, Yun Jian stepped on the accelerator. The fiery red flagship limited edition Ferrari LaFerrari sped forward like a flash of lightning. At the next junction, it drifted away at lightning speed and left everyone's sight. Chen Ilan and her family of 3 were left dumbfounded. She was the director of New Cruise. No wonder she could afford a sports car. I heard that New Cruise's annual net profit is in the hundreds of millions. Compared to her New Cruise, her family's plastic processing factory was just a silly joke. It was already 9:30 p.m. When they returned home to Longmen City, Yun Jian and Yun Yi parked their cars. At the same time, Yun Jian and the others were walking towards Gu Yunjian's house. Before they reached Gu Yunjian's house, a few figures suddenly walked out from the side. Chen Xinyi giggled and skipped over with a red veil in her hand. Mo Sen and Adam, who had not been seen for a long time, were standing at the gate. Luo Meiqi and Lan Su, who was carrying a child, also stood at the side, laughing secretly. What's wrong? Yun Jian was very confused. Sister. Ce Gij. A lively figure sprung out from the bushes. It was Xiao Yunju who was leading the way, pulling Duan Li and Duanya over as he shouted. Before he could finish, his mouth was covered by Lang Mei, who appeared out of nowhere. Shh. If you dare spout nonsense, I'll make your ass eat. Lang Mei pouted and glared at Xiao Yunju like she was afraid that Yun Jian would find out about the big secret from Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju blinked at the threat and kept quiet. Chen Xinyi went to Yun Jian and folded her veil before covering Yun Jian's eyes with it. Jian, don't move. Quick. Let me show you something. Yun Jian was confused, but when she saw how excited everyone around her was, she followed Chen Xinyi's lead to her and Ci's villa and went inside. I'll remove your veil on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. As she spoke, Chen Xinyi removed the veil that covered Yun Jian's eyes. What caught Yun Jian's eyes were the roses that were strewn all over the floor under the orange light of the house. From the living room to the stairs, from the stairs to the upper floor, the kitchen, the balcony, and everything else were covered with roses. The roses were arranged in various heart shapes and there was a wide variety of them. It was impossible to create such a lineup without spending days and nights. Inside the house, there was a total of 99,999 roses, which covered the entire villa. Yun Jian sucked in a breath and was stunned for a moment. Before Yun Jian could figure out what was going on, a slender figure flashed from the side and a handsome face appeared before her. Her hand was raised by the person who came, and a silver ring that shone under the orange light was put on her right ring finger. Then, Ce, who had never knelt to anyone before, knelt down on one knee in front of Yun Jian, right in front of everyone. Looking at Yun Jian sincerely, his thin lips moved as he spoke in a domineering tone that did not allow her to refute. Xiao Jian, marry me. A. Chapter 21:19. There was a hint of anticipation on Ci's chiseled face. After he put the ring on Yun Jian's right ring finger domineeringly, he knelt down on one knee in front of Yun Jian in front of everyone. Chen Xinyi, Lan Su, Luo Mei, Lang Mei, and Qingyu almost clapped and cheered at his action. Mo Sen, Adam, and Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and a few other men who were present with Chen Xinyi were not as enthusiastic as the women, but all of them had meaningful looks on their faces. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for your reading. Chapter 21:20. Ce did not know how to say sweet nothings, nor did he know how to do anything romantic. There was a type of person who was born high and mighty, as if he was the ruler of all things. His entire body exuded a sense of holiness that no one could underestimate. Even if he did things that were no different from ordinary people, his nobility made him stand out from the masses. Obviously, Ce was such a person. He had always been high and mighty, and even disdained to speak to others. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 21:21. After taking off her clothes, Ce went straight into Yun Jian's room. Inside the room, the night was long, just waiting for him to lift that mysterious veil, and see behind that veil of enchantment, and sink into depravity. After leaving Yun Jian and Ci's house, Chen Xinyi was sent home by Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen. Mo Sen also took Luo Berry away. Adam took the little boy, Zhou Iran, from Lan Su's arms. However, before he could do so, Zhou Iran hugged Lan Su tightly and glared fiercely at Adam, refusing to let him carry him. You're being fierce with me? Be fierce again and I'll throw you into space. Zhou Iran pouted and glared fiercely at him, his little hand clutching Lan Su's clothes tightly. That little hand faintly touched Lan Su's chest. Adam's jealousy surged, and he roared at Xueqi, the little fellow. Sob, 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 mama. Papa's bullying me. With that, Xueqi was even more unwilling to leave his mother's arms. Why are you so fierce to the child? Go away. What made Adam even angrier was that Lan Su helped the child slap his hand away and walked away angrily. Adam tilted his head and could clearly see Xueqi hugging his mother, Lan Su, and making faces at him. You little bastard, how dare you? How dare you snatch my woman? Adam chased after him angrily. It was a noisy family of 3, but they were also enjoying themselves. After Lang Mei left Yunjian and Siyi's house, she walked carefully on the streets. Leader's stamina was too damn good. She was having fun day and night and her stamina couldn't take it anymore. If this continued, the one who would have a kidney deficiency wouldn't be the leader, but her. Lang Mei, where are you going? Lang Mei was about to leave carefully when Ruo Yin's voice came from behind. Ruo Yin was the spear god who was known as the sharpshooter in the Blood Doll organization. At the same time, Ruo Yin and Lang Mei, who was known as the #1 expert under the Blood Doll leader, were competing for the top spot. Ugh! Lang Mei saw that Ruo Yin had discovered her escape. She looked left and right, then rushed towards Ruo Yin and covered her mouth. Shh. Don't talk. I'm telling you, I'm running away. I'll come back later. Therefore, the position of Blood Doll's #1 expert is temporarily given to you. Take it if you want. Lang Mei's words stunned Ruo Yin. You want to escape again? Where are you going? Ruo Yin blinked and asked. Even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I will go wherever there is no leader. If she didn't escape now, her old waist would break. Lang Mei said solemnly. With that, Lang Mei released her hand that was covering Ruo Yin's mouth. She waved at Ruo Yin and was about to walk forward, leaving behind a cool sentence. Then bye-bye. I'm leaving. Don't miss me. I'm just a legend. As soon as she said the word legend, a steady male voice sounded behind Lang Mei. Leaving? Where are you going? After hearing the steady male voice, Lang Mei was so scared that she trembled. She turned around slowly and stiffly. She forced a bitter smile. Hey, what a coincidence. Leader, why are you here too? Not far away, there was a man dressed in black from head to toe and wearing a black hoodie. Under the hoodie was a very young but frighteningly pale handsome face. It was late at night. Di Lin suddenly stood behind Lang Mei, giving off the feeling that he was a messenger of the night. What a coincidence. Di Lin's handsome face, which was almost pale, moved slightly. Unknowingly, Di Lin had already grabbed Lang Mei's hand. Ruo Yin gave Lang Mei a take-care expression and slipped away. Hey, trying you. Lang Mei saw this and was about to scold Ruo Yin for being unkind. But Di Lin had already grabbed her hand and was walking towards the hotel. As your punishment for running away, you are not allowed to get out of bed for the next month. A. Chapter 21-22. Lang Mei rolled her eyes when she heard what Di Lin said. She had a feeling that her waist would be so sore that she could not feel anything for the next month because of her escape. God, she did not want that. The next morning, Yun Jian woke up sprawled on Siyi's chest. She was not in a hurry to put on her clothes when she woke up but automatically wrapped her arms around his chest with her eyes closed. Siyi had actually woken up a long time ago. When he felt his Yun Jian sleeping so soundly with her arms wrapped around his chest, he did not move, afraid that he would disturb her sleep. They slept until 8 in the morning and Yun Jian did not even go for her morning run. When they woke up, it was just in time for breakfast. Yun Jian stayed at home for the next 2 days with Siyi. Occasionally, Xiao Yunju would bring Duanli and Duanya over to play with Yun Jian and Siyi. However, Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya had made a group of friends recently, so they would go out when it was time for them to play. Children were innocent and naive, but also very cute. Yun Jian treated Siyi as her man now, the kind where they did not hide anything from each other. Therefore, Yun Jian told Siyi about the discovery of her body in her past life. Siyi frowned when he heard that. After all, it was Yun Jian's body in her past life. They had not started researching it yet. It would be inappropriate if the researchers were to study her body. Who would want their body to be touched here and there? It was fortunate that they had not started researching it yet. It was Xiao Jian's original body after all. I'll send someone to get her back, Ce said. No, I'll do it myself. I won't publicize it if I can, Yunjian said. Ce would never reject Yunjian's decision. After staying at home with Ce for 2 days, Ce returned to an Hun organization while Yunjian returned to the University of Rivertown. On the long-distance bus back to Jiang City, Liang Xiumin, who was traveling with Yunjian, had a bitter expression on her face. She looked as if she had a lot on her mind. Halfway through the car ride, Liang Xiumin asked Yunjian, Yunjian, tell me, if a guy says he likes you but plays around with other guys and girls every day, what do you think? Not only do you have to give him money, but you also have to treat his friends to meals and bars every day. If this kind of guy asked you to give yourself to him, would you agree? The boy Liang Xiumin was talking about was undoubtedly her boyfriend, Jin Yu. Yunjian could tell that Liang Xiumin's boyfriend, Jin Yu, was most likely asking to sleep with Liang Xiumin. I won't, Yunjian rejected decisively. Why? Liang Xiumin asked, puzzled. Protect yourself. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Yunjian didn't give a reason. She only said this to Liang Xiumin. Liang Xiumin fell silent after hearing this. At that time, Liang Xiumin had never thought that her life would change because of Yunjian's words. After Yunjian returned to school, she went back to her normal life. In the past few days, the most sensational news was that the most handsome guy in Dongfang University, who had displayed 99 roses in a heart to Yunjian, had his legs crippled by an unknown person. He even had difficulty walking in the future. Needless to say, this was definitely done by Ce. However, this wasn't within the scope of Yunjian's consideration. At this moment, Yunjian was planning to apply for leave to go to Marilena's tomb in Country M in a few days' time. However, plans could never keep up with changes. On this day, Yunjian and Zhu Huili arrived at the classroom very early and saw that their classmates were already there. A few of them were holding a newspaper and making a big fuss. Seeing that Yunjian had arrived, the classmates were still talking among themselves. One of the students was holding a newspaper at this moment and cried out in surprise. Mr. Zhang! Oh my God! Shocking! Shocking! I heard that something big happened internationally. The top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, the infamous slaying god, is dead. Her body is in Marilena's tomb in Country M. I heard that she's been dead for a long time, but her body hasn't decomposed yet. Now that countless international bosses have heard the news, they formed teams to snatch her away. A. Chapter 21-23. I heard that the news was leaked by someone. I wonder if it's true. Shocking. It's too shocking. According to the newspaper, after hearing the news, all the top people in the world rushed to Marilena's grave before they even had the time to think about the authenticity of the news. Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent ranking, is just too awesome. It's just a rumor, but it's not confirmed that it's slaying God. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. Chapter 21-24. The male student's words successfully attracted Yunjian's attention. Yunjian stopped in her tracks. Hee, I knew you'd be interested in this. Seeing how you usually don't care about ordinary things, I knew you'd be especially interested in some strange things. The male student walked towards Yunjian. As he walked, he even snapped his fingers and pretended to be quite handsome. You're from the Archaeological Society? This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 21-25. This female member was also a student of the School of Archaeology of Rivertown and a member of the Archaeology Society. Most of the students in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown were from the Archaeology faculty. Very few students from other faculties were studying in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. Hence, The Archaeology Society wasn't like other societies where you could join as long as you were interested. If a student of the School of Archaeology of Rivertown wanted to join the Archaeology Society, they had to be outstanding. Outstanding here meant that they were outstanding enough to be one of the best in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. Only then would they be qualified to join the Archaeology Society. Besides Yun Jian, Ma Zhixiang and the other 4 were all members of the Archaeology Society. In other words, the 5 of them were the best in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. The female member who spoke was called Lu Yuyan. Lu Yuyan had the best overall ability among the 5 members of the Archaeology Society who were participating in the tomb adventure. She said that because the few of them had already explored a place like the tomb before. In the end, they had brought a person with no common sense there and had almost triggered the trap in the tomb, causing all of them to lose their lives on the spot. In the end, Lu Yuyan had resolved the crisis and saved everyone. Lu Yuyan's words weren't directed at Yun Jian. After Lu Yuyan said that, Ma Zhixiang scratched his head. His face that wasn't handsome but wasn't ugly either immediately revealed an awkward expression. Have you learned self-defense before? Ma Zhixiang turned to ask Yun Jian. The tomb adventure wasn't like the usual. Previously, the person who didn't know anything had almost wiped out all the members of the Archaeology Society who had gone to the tomb. As the president, Ma Zhixiang naturally had to take this matter seriously. This wasn't a joke. However, Ma Zhixiang wasn't a straightforward person when it came to rejecting people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the risk to bring a person who didn't know anything to the tomb. Oh yes, Zhixiang. She's the one I told you about previously. She's the new president of the Martial Arts Society at the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Oh, she's amazing. Even the president of our Martial Arts Society, Mo Buffon, wasn't her match. So, you don't have to worry about whether she'll drag you down. Tong Zhengjin patted his chest and spoke to Ma Zhixiang in a reassuring tone. Lu Yuyan let out a sigh of relief. Then she turned to Yun Jian and said, "That's good. We've confirmed that there will be 6 of us. We'll set off at 2 o'clock sharp. If you have anything to do, you should take advantage of this time to do it." Compared to the initial questioning, Lu Yuyan's tone was much more easygoing. Lu Yuyan had the demeanor of an elder sister. She was tall, about 1.7 meters tall, with a pair of slender legs. She wore a pair of black flat-bottomed boots, a clean black button-down shirt, and a pair of black shorts. Paired with nude-colored stockings, she didn't feel cold even though it was getting closer to winter. Lu Yuyan's appearance was not bad. Her facial features were exquisite. It was just that when she spoke, she had a straight face, which gave people the illusion that she was scolding someone. Actually, it wasn't a bad thing. Yun Jian didn't say much but responded. Yun Jian went back to the martial arts club near the school and instructed the members to practice well. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she met up with Ma Zhixiang, Lu Yuyan, and the other 4. The group boarded the bus to the airport. After taking the plane to Country M, they transferred to a small village in Country M. The small village in Country M wasn't poor. Country M wasn't as big as Country Z, and its population was far less than Country Z. In addition, Country M's economy was developing faster. Therefore, the village here had been developing very well since 2002. Ma Zhixiang rented a taxi, which took them to the small village. "Shall we find a place to rest today?" Ma Zhixiang said. They still needed to find out where Marilena's tomb was. It was everyone's first time coming to this small village in Country M, so they naturally didn't know the way. Yun Jian and the others nodded in agreement. By the way, if any of you have good English and can communicate normally with the people in Country M, go and ask the passers-by where Marilena's tomb is. We'll find a place to rest nearby. In the group, a fat and short boy spoke up. Yuyan's English is good. Let her go. Yuyan was the one who translated the taxi just now, a girl with 2 ponytails said. I learned it from the English school. I really don't know how to ask for directions. Lu Yuyan wasn't proud and said bluntly. Then what should we do? The girl with 2 ponytails shook her head and frowned. Just when everyone didn't know what to do, a beautiful voice sounded, I'll go. A. Chapter 21-26. The one who spoke was none other than Yun Jian. Yun Jian pursed her lips and replied, Is your English good? The lowly-looking girl with two ponytails turned to look at Yunjian and asked. Although the lowly-looking girl with two ponytails was already in university, her appearance and dressing made her look like a junior high school student. Her name was Night Spirit. Night Spirit. Just from her name, one could tell that she was a mischievous girl. Night Spirit was actually 19 years old, but judging from her appearance, people would believe that she was only 14 or 15 years old. I can communicate normally with Americans, Yunjian explained. That's amazing. The fat boy next to her was called Guidongyang. He gave Yunjian a thumbs up. As for the 5 people other than Yunjian, the boy who had never spoken was nearly 1.9 meters tall. His body was quite strong, and his strong muscles could be seen from his clothes. This boy's name was Ling Feng. He did not like to talk much and looked rather mature. He was only in his early 20s, but he looked like a mature man in his 30s. Ma Zhixiang and the other 4 did not doubt Yunjian's words at all. Since they had agreed to let Yunjian come with them, then in their hearts, they had already treated Yunjian as one of their own. Soon, with Yunjian asking for directions, the 6 of them found a hotel closest to Marilena's tomb. Marilena's tomb was nearby, but it was still a 2-hour journey on the mountain road from the village. The mountain path was rugged, so it was usually done in groups of several people. There were no exceptions. This was because if you did not go in groups, the villagers would not allow foreigners to go to Marilena's tomb. After resting for a day, Yunjian and the others went to Marilena's tomb with teams from various countries early the next morning. Other than Yunjian's team, the other teams were basically made up of foreigners. However, what was rather surprising was that one of the teams was also from country Z. Looking at the age of the members of that team, they were also in their 20s. Like Ma Zhixiang and the others, they were probably from an archaeology school. However, those people looked quite cold. When they were walking on the mountain road, Ma Zhixiang kindly handed the oranges he brought to them and asked if they wanted to eat them. In the end, that person directly slapped the oranges Ma Zhixiang gave him to the ground. Ma Zhixiang looked embarrassed, and then the 2 parties ignored each other. Yunjian did not pay attention to these things. The group continued forward. The mountain road was rugged and even steep in some places. When they reached a fork in the road, they were about to go to the other road. The owner of the inn gave him a map. This fork in the road was the closest route to Marilena's tomb. Just as the group was about to walk in that direction, a few foreigners who were sitting on a few large rocks at the intersection of the road jumped down from the rocks and blocked the way. We're taking this road. All of you, scram to the other road. The leader of these people said in a ruffian voice. He spoke in English. This road belongs to everyone. Who do you think you are to take it just because you say so? In another team from country Z, like Yunjian's team, a girl with loose hair and Western-style clothes replied to the leader in fluent English. This Western-style girl was called Lu Mingyu. That was what her companions called her. Everyone present could speak English. It was just a matter of whether they were proficient or not. As for Ma Zhixiang, Night Spirit, and the others, they were all university students who got into regular universities. They could generally understand the general meaning of English. It was just that they did not know how to speak it. After the Western-style Lu Mingyu finished speaking, the ruffian foreigners walked to the side. Seeing this, Lu Mingyu turned around and smiled smugly at her companions. At the same time, she glanced at Yunjian and the others from the corner of her eyes. She was full of arrogance and superiority. However, these ruffian foreigners walked to the side and soon surrounded them again. What was different from before was that these ruffian foreigners all had rifles in their hands. The leader of the ruffian foreigners laughed and said, "This road belongs to us. Whoever dares to take it will die." Seeing the foreigners who suddenly carried weapons, Lu Mingyu realized that these foreigners were not ordinary people. She was so frightened that she sat on the ground and crawled back a few steps. Seeing this, the ruffian foreigners nodded and smiled contemptuously. However, just as everyone was disheartened and planned to take a longer route, and the ruffian foreigners looked at the people in front of them with contempt, a beautiful female voice rang out. It was a voice that made the depths of one's soul tremble violently. It spread throughout the place. "I'm so sorry. I never knew that my corpse was so charming that it even attracted your Gale mercenaries to come and join in the fun today. It's my honor. A. Chapter 21-27. My corpse? Hurricane mercenaries. Everyone there was stunned for a second when they heard what Yunjian said. What did Yunjian mean? What did she mean by my corpse? Could it be that the corpse in Marilena's tomb was hers? Was she slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the world? Of course no one thought so. To hell with it. Yunjian. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. Chapter 21-28. She had her eyes on the corpse, so it was hers. Yunjian's words made the people who were shocked by Yunjian's words of, my corpse, feel that it was an illusion. In spite of it, what Yunjian did just now was too shocking. Not only was she unfazed when she was faced with a leading foreigner's rifle, she had seized the opportunity when she was answering the foreigner's question to pounce over and snatch the foreigner's gun in just 3 seconds. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 21-29. Ma Zhixiang and the others followed Yunjian for a long distance before they recovered from their shock. Oh no, my God! Yunjian, how did you do that just now? Do you know that your pose was so cool? From now on, Guidongyang, a member of the Archaeology School Society, will be your underling. Guidongyang grinned at Yunjian with his fair lips and teeth as his huge and plump body shook up and down. Guidongyang was a true fatty. Although he looked fat, he was actually even fatter. The lumps of fat on his body clung tightly to his body. However, Guidongyang was an extremely adorable fatty. Not only did the fat on his body not make one feel disgusted, it even made him look adorable. Fatty you? Underling? Come on, Yunjian doesn't want to take you in. Night Spirit swung her 2 ponytails and made a funny face at Guidongyang with a grin. What's wrong? So what if I'm fat? Being fat means that I can eat. My body is great and I can eat well. Give me a fulcrum and I can eat your family to the point of poverty. Guidongyang walked with a proud expression as he shook his body twice with his tummy. That action made Night Spirit burst into laughter. She laughed so hard that she almost choked on her own saliva. Fatty, why are you so funny? Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Night Spirit laughed and laughed until she could not hold it in anymore. She hugged her tummy and laughed as she walked forward, unable to stop. How annoying! You guys are so nosy. Seeing Night Spirit and Guidongyang laughing along the way, Lu Mingyu, who was very concerned about her image, brushed her long hair that was scattered over her shoulders and pouted. Hey, we're talking. We're talking about ourselves. It's not a problem for you, right? We're not walking on your path nor are we snatching your place. Furthermore, if it's someone from our team, you guys can only take the long route obediently. If you're unhappy, you can take the long route yourself. Do you really King think we have to bring you along? Night Spirit was not someone to be trifled with either. When she heard Lu Mingyu's words, she immediately retorted without giving her any face. Night Spirit was direct, but as long as one was alive, one should be like Night Spirit. If someone scolded them, they should bombard them with words until they surrendered. Don't say that you're embarrassed to fight back. Think about it from another perspective. If the other party had the nerve to bully you, why would you be embarrassed to fight back? So what if they had shed all pretense of cordiality? If the other party dared to bully you, it meant that she had shed all pretense of cordiality first. Why should you show her any mercy? Night Spirit well said. I support you. When Guidongyang heard Night Spirit's words, he stood out and said loudly. At the same time, he glanced at Lu Mingyu from the corner of his eye. This stare infuriated Lu Mingyu. Aren't you guys just borrowing that woman's glory? What's so great about that? Did he think that he was very powerful? I think that woman is just Didn't he just say a few random words? Did he really think he was a god? Huh. Lu Mingyu was not someone who would swallow her anger. She kept saying, that woman, and quarreled with Night Spirit and Guidongyang. From time to time, she would glare at Yunjian as if Yunjian had done something to her. Just as Lu Mingyu was clicking her tongue non-stop, Yunjian, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, Shut up, there's gunfire. Where did the gunfire come from? The gunfire was so loud. Why didn't we hear it? You're trying to prove that you're very powerful just now, right? Lu Mingyu even glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of her eye. However, just as he finished speaking, a series of terrifying gunshots came from the back of the mountain in front of them. Bang! 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 Hey! Chapter 21:30. Gunshots rang out one after another. They were quite a distance away from where the gunshots were coming from. If someone were to walk there, they would probably hear deafening gunshots. What's going on? What's going on? The moment she heard the gunshots, Lu Mingyu, who was so arrogant earlier, immediately grabbed the sleeve of a boy who came with her. She was so scared that she could not stop trembling. Although Ma Jixiang, Night Spirit, Guodongyang, Lu Yuyan, and Ling Feng were also afraid of the sudden gunshots, their reactions were many times better than Lu Mingyu's. Why does everyone here have guns? Lu Mingyu was so scared that she grabbed the sleeve of a boy who came with her tightly. She was so scared that she was almost scared to death. There's a gunfight up ahead. Yun Jian ignored Lu Mingyu and said calmly. After Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was slightly stunned. Gunfight? Why would there be a gunfight? Didn't everyone come here to see the female corpse that won't rot? I only heard that some people wanted to snatch the female corpse. But if that's the case, everyone should compete fairly. Why would they shoot? Lu Mingyu was already trembling in fear. At this time, a girl who was in the same team as Lu Mingyu was less than 1.5 meters tall and was about the height of a child. According to the golden ratio, her figure was just right. She was also a little scared as she spoke softly. However, just as the girl finished speaking, she was interrupted by Yun Jian. Compete fairly? These words only belong to a society ruled by law. I'm sorry to tell you that this is not a place you're familiar with. You still want to compete fairly after entering this place? Are you dreaming? It was not hard to tell that neither Ma Jixiang's team nor Lu Mingyu's team knew what kind of place they were in. Perhaps they were still heading towards an ordinary tomb, with the idea that the treasure would belong to whoever found it first based on their own abilities. However, they did not know that the people who came to Marilena's tomb to fight for the corpse were all international wanted criminals, international business tycoons, underground gangs, assassin organizations, and mercenary groups. These people treated human lives like grass. Could it be that everyone else is here for the female corpse? It was rumored that the female corpse was slaying God, the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. Was slaying God's influence so great in this world? It's just a news report saying that the female corpse is suspected to be slaying God, the #1 international secret agent, and all those people are rushing over to check it out? They haven't even entered the tomb yet, and they're already using their guns and starting a massacre just to snatch first place? Do you still regard human lives as worthless? Ma Jixiang was indeed worthy of being the president of the Archaeology Society. He possessed an intelligent brain and immediately asked this question in shock. It was only suspected to be the corpse of slaying God, the top international secret agent. They did not even know if the news was real or fake, yet all the top international figures were rushing over to check it out? What kind of existence was slaying God? Although Ma Jixiang, Lu Mingyu, and the rest were students, they shuddered when they heard about slaying God, the top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. However, they were university students after all. They would not know what slaying God's international status was. What they said above was spoken in Chinese. The foreigners in the team standing at the side probably did not understand Mandarin. However, a foreigner with a beard that covered half his face could not help but speak in Mandarin when he heard Ma Jixiang. The moment he mentioned slaying God, the foreigner was so serious that he was filled with respect. Every word that came out of the foreigner's mouth shocked and resonated with everyone present. Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent ranking. She's an existence that makes the world tremble. Slaying God is the person who shocked the world during the Bloody Night incident a few years ago. Those who are targeted by slaying God will definitely die. If we were to talk about slaying God's most famous incident, it would be the Bloody Night incident a few years ago. When slaying God wasn't #1 on the international secret agent ranking, She was one of the top 10 secret agents on the International Secret Agent ranking and top 10 assassins on the International Assassin ranking due to her extraordinary ability. A total of 20 top international assassins went up against Slaying God alone. Do you know how it ended in the end? Slaying God single-handedly wiped out the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking and killed all 20 top assassins on the spot. That's the infamous Bloody Night incident. Tell me, how can the death of such a terrifying person not cause a stir? A. Chapter 2131. A. Chapter 2132. A. Chapter 2133. Yun Jian followed Ma Zhixiang and the others to the hillside first. Lu Mingyu and the others followed closely behind. Later, the other teams of foreigners also followed Yun Jian and the others to the hillside. The hillside was not high. Yun Jian and the others walked for about 10 minutes to reach the top of the hill. At the top of the hill, they could see the scene of the terrifying gunfight about a few hundred meters away. From the top of the hill, one could see the entire scene of the gunfight, as well as the entrance to the tomb at the side of the hill where the gunfight was in full swing. Marilena's tomb was different from other tombs buried underground. It was on flat ground. Of course, Marilena's tomb was located in the middle of a mountain. Entering from the entrance of the tomb was equivalent to walking in a man-made cave. But unlike a cave, it was a tomb. After Lu Mingyu followed the group to the top of the hill, she was no longer afraid when she saw that she was safe. Her cowardice disappeared in an instant. She even saw Yun Jian, who had just shown her talent, follow them to the top of the hill. Lu Mingyu was unhappy. She pointed at the scene of the gunfight in the distance and said loudly to Yun Jian, "Aren't you very good? What's wrong? Are you scared now? Why did you come to the top of the hill with us to take refuge? Go down if you have the guts." Who asked her to show off in front of everyone just now? As soon as Lu Mingyu finished speaking, the girl who was less than 1.5 meters tall and about the same height as a child also helped Lu Mingyu to point out Yun Jian's faults. "The gunfight over there is so scary. But didn't you say that there is no fair competition here? Since you said that, it means that you are very familiar with the scene of such a gunfight, right? Then why did you come to the top of the hill like us to take refuge?" It was normal for young girls to pay attention to their image. But Yun Jian had just refuted the words of the girl who was less than 1.5 meters tall in front of everyone. It was reasonable that the girl was unhappy. Now that they were safe, the girls helped Lu Mingyu to fight back against Yun Jian. "All right, Lu Mingyu, Dan Kaiwe, stop talking. It was this girl who helped us just now, so we didn't have to take a detour. It's really too much for the two of you to continue talking." At this moment, a boy in Lu Mingyu's team finally stood up and said something fair. The girl, who was less than 1.5 meters tall, was short but not heavy. She was thin and petite, and helped Lu Mingyu to say that Yun Jian was not her. Her name was Dan Kaiwe. As soon as the boy finished speaking, Dan Kaiwe and Lu Mingyu shut their mouths obediently. Then the boy turned to look at Yun Jian and smiled apologetically. Then he turned to Ma Zhixiang and said, "Well, I'm sorry about earlier. You were kind enough to give me an orange to eat, and I even swatted it away. I heard from you guys on the way that you guys are university students from the School of Archaeology. Then we should be similar. We are also students of the School of Archaeology. My father is a professor and an archaeologist in our school. This time I was the one who led the team. Before we came out, my father told me not to care about others. People outside are sinister, so when you gave me an orange just now, I didn't give you a good look. Now, I apologize to you. I hope you can forgive me." As the boy spoke, he reached out his hand to Ma Zhixiang and introduced himself very seriously. "Let's get to know each other. My name is David. A. Chapter 2134. David was not pretending to be aloof, which was why he had swatted away Ma Zhixiang's orange. Now that the misunderstanding had been resolved, Ma Zhixiang extended his hand in a friendly manner and shook David's hand. Your father was right. When you're outside, you have to be vigilant. It's not your fault. Haha. After a while, Ma Zhixiang and David became good friends. The main reason was that Ma Zhixiang had let bygones be bygones. Lu Mingyu and Dan Kaiyue saw that Ma Zhixiang and David had become good friends. Dan Kaiyue did not say much while Lu Mingyu rolled her eyes. Look. Over there. Just when the tension had eased, a foreigner suddenly pointed excitedly at the location of the gunfight in the distance and exclaimed. His exclamation attracted everyone's attention. In the distance, a small team of 8 people suddenly appeared in the middle of the gunfight between the two sides. These 8 people were undoubtedly Blackett and his men. When Blackett and his men joined the gunfight, it became a 3-way gunfight. The 3 groups of people who came from different regions and had different goals started fighting each other with their spears. For a moment, gunshots rang through the air. Kill! Kill! We swear to protect our benefactor. Slaying God's body. We'd rather die today than take back our benefactor. Slaying God's body. 100 meters away, at the scene of the gunfight, Blackett, who was shot in the arm, roared. Ignoring the throbbing pain, he reloaded the spent bullets into the magazine and attacked again. The 2 underworld forces that Blackett was fighting in the distance had many people. The 2 underworld forces that were still in the gunfight suddenly came to a consensus and charged toward Blackett and his men. Oh no! They've stopped attacking each other and are planning to kill us first. One of Blackett's men frowned and said. Blackett clenched his fist. Suddenly, in front of Ma Zhixiang and the others who were 100 meters away, he poked his head out, held his pistol, and shot dead the enemy's men. He shouted, he yelled. Don't retreat. Don't forget, we'd be dead if it weren't for slaying God. Now that slaying God is in trouble, how can we surrender? Kill them. Kill them. Kill. Blackett's brothers stood up, exposed themselves in front of the enemy, and charged forward, screaming and yelling. 100 meters away, Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned by the fighting spirit of Blackett's group. Oh my God, they'll die if they do this. Night Spirit's eyes widened in shock. Die. It was no longer important to Blackett and the others. Slaying God was the one who gave them a second chance at life. Now that the underground forces wanted to take Slaying God's body away, they must not let them succeed. Gunshots rang out incessantly. The 2 opposing dark forces now aimed their guns at Blackett's group of 8. As Ma Zhixiang and the others exclaimed in shock, Blackett's group of 8 fell to the ground one after another. Blackett and the others had covered themselves very well. They were wearing bulletproof vests, so they weren't hit in the vitals. However, they were still missing 1 or 2 shots. One of the bosses of the underworld forces suddenly stood out and shouted, You're too weak. Kill. Kill. Kill them all. Damn it. How dare you sneak attack my men? Kill them all. Give them the final blow. After that, 8 of his men with rifles pointed their guns at Blackett's group. Seeing this, pain and despair flashed through Blackett's group of 8. They were still too weak. They thought they could do something for slaying God. But now, they couldn't do it anymore. I'm sorry, we're just a bunch of trash. But we've done our best. Blackett closed his eyes slowly. Just when he and Ma Zhixiang and the others who were watching from 100 meters away thought that Blackett's group of 8 were done for. Tut 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 tut. 8 consecutive machine gun shots were heard. The 8 men who had pointed their guns at Blackett's group were killed instantly. Ma Zhixiang and the others widened their eyes from afar. The girl who was supposed to be standing next to them had somehow gone down the hill and was now standing in the center of the battle between the 2 dark forces. It was the most eye-catching spot. The girl was holding a machine gun that she had gotten from somewhere. After shooting at the 8 people, Blackett and the others reacted and looked at her with shocked and terrified eyes. The girl's lips curled into a smile in front of the 2 dark forces, Blackett's group, and Ma Zhixiang and the others who were watching from afar. She lowered her head slightly and revealed a creepy smirk. She said something that made everyone's faces turn pale. Even if they're trash or dogs, the people I've protected aren't people you can kill just because you want to. Chapter 21:35. The people I've protected, even if they're trash, even if they're dogs, are not people you can kill just because you want to. Yun Jian's words weighed down on everyone's hearts like a 1,000-pound boulder. No one was able to react to the sudden turn of events. By the time they realized what was going on, Yunjian had already fired her machine gun at the 8 men who were trying to kill Blackette. She had. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you want to support the author, please go to the official website to read. Chapter 2136. Ma Zhixiang was indeed the president of the Archaeology Society. He had great foresight and his analysis was very reasonable. This Yunjian was not simple, so they should not drag her down. Ma Zhixiang's words made Lu Yuyan stop what she was doing. She really did not insist on going down the mountain to bring Yunjian back. Ma Zhixiang's team of Archaeology Society members were not simple. Otherwise, why would the school be willing to let them explore the tomb? This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 2137. Brother Milo, what are you doing? Xianyu asked as he scanned the surroundings after giving Milo a big hug. Hee. There's a group of overconfident forces and a few ants who barged into my territory trying to snatch the entrance to Marilena's tomb from me. I'm getting rid of evil for the people. After Milo heard Xianyu's words, he glared fiercely at the underground forces who were in a gunfight with him, Blackette and his men who joined the fight later, and Yunjian who appeared last. Oh, what kind of ants dare to be so presumptuous in front of Brother Milo? After Xianyu heard Milo's words, he looked around with a slightly scrutinizing gaze. Envious Yu's words clearly eased Milo's anger from before. They're just a few clowns. Milo replied Xianyu. Since they're just clowns, why should we care about their lives? Brother Milo, I've heard that Marilena's tomb is like a huge maze. The female corpse suspected to be slaying God was hidden in it by a few researchers. Until now, those who entered the tomb have yet to find the female corpse. I heard that someone searched Marilena's tomb for 3 days and 3 nights but still couldn't find the female corpse's hiding place. Instead, they returned to the entrance of the tomb. It turns out that they've been walking in circles. Brother Milo, I'm telling you the truth. I'm only telling you this because of our close relationship. It's more important for us to enter the tomb and find the female corpse. If we're late, it'll be snatched away by those who have already entered the tomb. As for this group of clowns, let them continue to dance. The most important thing now is to enter the tomb as soon as possible. With Brother Milo's status, how can you limit your goal to this? Xianyu was already standing in front of Milo when he spoke to him sternly. That's right. Ha ha ha. Brother Xian, you're really far-sighted. Let's go. We'll enter the tomb now. After Milo heard Xianyu's words, he laughed and didn't argue with Yunjian anymore. He led his men and quickly walked toward the tomb. The other group of underground forces did not stop them. After a gunfight, Milo clearly had the upper hand. It was great that Milo no longer cared. Yunjian did not continue to attack Milo. This Milo was just a small character and was not worth her energy. After Milo walked into Marilena's tomb with a group of people laughing, another group of dark forces also followed into the tomb. With a light leap, Yunjian hopped down from the rock and made her way to where Blackette and the others had fallen. Can you still get up? Yunjian stood in front of Blackette and asked. Yes. Blackette looked at Yunjian as if she was his idol. His voice was so loud that it almost reached the tip of his heart. She is. Blackette struggled for a while before he finally managed to stand up. He covered the gunshot wounds on his body, but blood was still dripping from his wounds. Blackette already realized that she, Yunjian, was, however, Blackette didn't say the shocking news he had just realized. How is it? Are you guys okay? At this moment, Ma Zhixiang and the others, who were originally standing on the hillside in the distance, ran over. At this time, Ma Zhixiang asked. Ma Zhixiang, who was on the hill, saw the group of people enter Marilena's tomb, so he came down the hill and rushed over. TCH, aren't we fine? Nothing happened. Lu Mingyu muttered. Leave all the weapons on you, go clean your wounds and leave. Just then, Yoon Jian looked at Blackette and said to Blackette and the others in an irrefutable tone. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website. A. Chapter 2138. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. But we haven't gotten our savior's body back. One of the men in Blackette's group said. Blackette and his men were injured, both severely and lightly. The man who spoke was so injured that he could barely stand up. However, he was determined to stand up and continue his journey to Marilena's tomb. They had sworn that their second life was given to them by slaying God. If they could die for slaying God one day, they would have no regrets. Leave it to me. I won't let her body fall into anyone's hands. Yoon Jian did not wait for the severely injured man to speak. Her voice boomed with a powerful aura. Everyone was stunned when she finished speaking. Yoon Jian did not sound like she was joking. Brothers, give her your weapons. Listen to her. Blackette covered his mouth and coughed a few times. After spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, he wiped his mouth nonchalantly and spoke to his men. Clearly, other than Blackette, no one knew Yoon Jian's identity. However, these men were absolutely loyal to Blackette. Hence, Blackette and his men threw all their weapons on the ground and listened to Yoon Jian. They walked to the side and treated their wounds. After that, they supported each other and left the place. Blackette took one last long look at Yoon Jian before turning to leave. It seemed like Blackette and his men had come with a determination to die. Not only were there a variety of pistols on the ground, but there were also grenades and other weapons that Ma Zhixiang and the rest had never seen before. This, Ma Zhixiang, David, and the rest were just university students after all. Although they had learned a lot and were more powerful than the average university student, they were still a group of ordinary people at the end of the day. Hence, they were stunned when they saw the variety of pistols and grenades on the ground. You've seen what happened just now. Those who enter the tomb will be in danger at any time. I can tell you very clearly that the people you'll meet in the tomb will only be scarier than those people just now. Whether it's in terms of international influence, strength, or status, those people just now can't compare to him. So, if you want to enter the tomb, pick up your own weapons and fight. Of course, you can also choose not to take your weapons or not enter the tomb, because once you enter the tomb, I won't care if you live or die. Do as you please. Yoon Jian said to the crowd. At this point, she had already done all she could. What the hell? Do you think you're so powerful? You just know how to use weapons. I can do that too. Lu Mingyu glared at Yoon Jian. She squatted down and picked a few weapons from the ground. But after holding them in her hands, Lu Mingyu realized that she didn't even know how to use them. Yoon Jian ignored Lu Mingyu. At the same time, Ma Zhixiang and the other four had already chosen several weapons and carried them with them. Ma Zhixiang and the other four chose one weapon each. David, Lu Mingyu, Dan Kaiwa, and the others also chose one weapon each. Just as the group of people tried their best to hide their weapons on their bodies, but people could still see that they were carrying weapons with a glance, they glanced at Yoon Jian from the corner of their eyes. Suddenly, they saw that Yoon Jian was skillfully hiding 2 pistols on the left and right sides of her waist. Then, she inserted 5 grenades into the bandage on her waist, in front of her stomach, and behind her back. Her loose clothes covered these 7 weapons. After that, Yoon Jian picked up a few small knives and hid them in various parts of her body. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, Ma Zhixiang and the others wouldn't have believed that Yoon Jian hid so many weapons on her body. After she lifted her clothes and rolled up her trousers, she hid all the weapons on her body. On the surface, it was as if she didn't have any weapons on her body. That appearance was like the preparation work of a female agent in a movie before she took out hidden weapons from all over her body to kill someone. Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned when they saw this. It was Ma Zhixiang who spoke. He opened his mouth wide in surprise and asked, Yoon Jian, how did you hide so many weapons all over your body? Top reading website, M.A. Chapter 2139. Yoon Jian was biting her butterfly knife. After everything was done, she held the butterfly knife in her mouth and twirled it twice in her hand. Finally, she hid it between her thighs and said bluntly, That's how I did it. What's there to be proud of? Lu Mingyu glared at Yun Jian. She suddenly felt a wave of jealousy. Why did she seem to know everything? I can do it too, Lu Mingyu added. Then she read from. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 2140. Lin Wei was already prepared for Yi Ling to ignore him. Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of the Anhun organization who was not afraid of anything, was the strongest, and had never been afraid of anyone. However, because he was afraid that Yi Ling would ignore him, he delayed the agreed time by 2 days before coming to look for her. When he said those words that were so indifferent that anyone could hear the indifference in his voice, Lin Wei was afraid that Yi Ling would nod in agreement. However, he did not expect that she would actually. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 2141. They had just entered the tomb and walked for 30 minutes, but they had only walked around the tomb once? What? It's so strange. We have been walking forward since we came in from the entrance of the tomb. We just turned at a few forks. How could we return to the same path? How is it possible to go around in circles? Hearing Yun Jian's words, Lu Mingyu felt a chill down her spine. She was so scared that she shivered and stammered to defend herself. Compared to Lu Mingyu, who chose to deceive herself with words of disbelief, Lu Yuyan quickly took out a flashlight and shone it on the wall. Every 5 meters, a tick mark appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This mark was drawn by Lu Yuyan, who was walking at the back, with the red chalk. We really went back to the original path. Lu Yuyan frowned and immediately said, What should we do? We didn't see the entrance just now. Will we not be able to get out? What the hell is going on? Seeing this, Lu Mingyu was so scared that her face turned ashen. I want to get out of here. Dan Kaiyue immediately shivered in fear. Shut your mouths. Just as Lu Mingyu and Dan Kaiyue began to talk and tremble, Yun Jian suddenly shouted. Perhaps in this dark place where there was no light, Lu Mingyu and Dan Kaiyue were really scared by Yun Jian's shout and shut their mouths. At this time, everyone saw Yun Jian pressing her ear against the wall and listening quietly. In less than 2 seconds, Yun Jian raised her head and narrowed her eyes. There is someone on the other side of the wall. Don't scare us. I admit that I don't like you, but what kind of ability do you have to scare us like this? You. Lu Mingyu just said this. With a boom, the wall that Yun Jian had pressed her ear against just now seemed to have been triggered and suddenly opened. A handsome man in his early 30s appeared in front of everyone. He had a dignified appearance and was wearing a researcher's uniform. After the handsome man appeared, the moment he saw Yun Jian, he was slightly stunned. Then, he said to Yun Jian in front of everyone, Aren't you my aunt's granddaughter? Wait, let me think, that little girl named Yun Jian? Why are you here? The handsome man who suddenly appeared in front of everyone was none other than Zhang Junyi, the distant relative who had taken out the photo of Yun Jian's corpse during Lu Lanhua's funeral. He was also the great scientist that their relatives talked about. Uncle, are you related to Yun Jian? Judging from your attire, you must be the researcher who studied the female corpse, right? Could you please take us to see the female corpse? We came all the way here just to take a look, and then we'll leave. Night Spirit thought for a moment and hurriedly spoke to Zhang Junyi. Zhang Junyi touched the bridge of his nose, thought for a while, and nodded. Sure, we'll leave after we take a look, but don't tell anyone else where we hid the female corpse. You know that many people have entered the tomb to look for her recently. Zhang Junyi and this group of researchers had hidden the female corpse very well. Therefore, even if those international bigwigs entered Marilena's tomb, they could not find the female corpse's hiding place. However, just as Zhang Junyi finished speaking, Yun Jian and the others suddenly heard the anxious and terrified voices of other researchers coming from Zhang Junyi's earpiece. Oh no! Junyi, come back quickly. Those international bigwigs have found out where we hid the female corpse. As soon as he finished speaking, the communication was suddenly cut off. Hearing this, Ma Junyi's pupils constricted. In the next second, he did not have time to explain. He turned around and led Yunjian and the others to the location where the female corpse was hidden. Chapter 2142. The international group of people had been searching Marilena's tomb for many days without finding any trace of the female corpse. However, the business tycoons from all over the world found the female corpse hidden by the researchers. This explosive news made Yun Jian's eyes narrow fiercely. When Ma Zhixiang, Lu Yuyan, Dai Wei, and the others heard this, their eyes flickered. When they saw Zhang Junyi running back, they knew that Zhang Junyi must be running towards the female corpse. So, they chased after him with all their might. Following Zhang Junyi, they ran through countless tunnels and opened many mechanisms. Finally, they arrived at a place the size of a basketball court. This was a real tomb. 4 coffins were placed around the large and spacious area, and the 4 coffins were connected together to form a very neat square. When Yun Jian, Zhang Junyi, and the others arrived here, they saw a group of researchers dressed like Zhang Junyi standing not far away. And in the distance, there was a group of international bigwigs from all over the world. Among this group of international bigwigs, Milo's group and Xian Yu's group, who they met at the entrance of the tomb, were also present. At the same time, there were many unfamiliar faces. And among this group of international bigwigs, there was a burly middle-aged man who was strangling the neck of a man wearing a researcher's uniform. Obviously, this researcher was caught by this group of international bigwigs and finally forced to reveal the location of the female corpse. That's the coffin. The female corpse is hidden in that coffin. It has nothing to do with me. Now, I have already said, as long as I help you find her, you will let me go. The researcher who was threatened, his legs trembled violently. He pointed at one of the 4 coffins and said to the middle-aged man who was strangling his neck, "Scram." The middle-aged man heard this and kicked the researcher away. Seeing this, the researcher ran towards Yun Jian and the others as fast as he could. Bang! However, before the researcher could take 10 steps, a bullet pierced through his head, killing him on the spot. The middle-aged man who grabbed the researcher's neck sneered and said coldly, "It's your honor to be killed by me. How can you run away?" After saying that, the middle-aged man twirled the gun that had just killed the researcher and put it back into his waistcase. Look at the tattoo of a male tiger on that middle-aged man's left arm. There's a female tiger tattoo on his right arm. Judging from his disguise, he must be the number 2 assassin on the international assassin ranking, codenamed Tiger. While Ma Zhixiang and the others were still unaware of the situation, their faces turned pale with fright. Standing next to Yun Jian was a group of people who had been following Yun Jian and the others since the small village. A foreigner pointed at the middle-aged man who had just killed the researcher and exclaimed loudly. Ma Zhixiang, Lu Yuyan, Dai Wei, Lu Mingyu, and the others turned pale with fright. Assassin? That's an assassin on the international ranking. Lu Mingyu's face turned green with fright. Although the others were silent, their expressions were not any better. It's not just him. The bald man standing next to Tiger is the international 3S wanted criminal, Mo Wu. Although Mo Wu is not on the international assassin ranking, he was once arrested and imprisoned in Interpol prison. In the end, he managed to escape and was given a kill order by the police. He survived even after being shot by a machine gun. In the end, he was not killed. His ability is comparable to the top 10 assassins on the international assassin ranking. And that woman in the Chong Sam, she must be the international gangster duo, the CEO of the multinational company, Double Night Group. I heard that this Double Night Group has secret connections with the biggest international arms smuggling tycoon. Her ability and influence is not something an ordinary person can fight against. This foreigner must have some understanding of these matters, so he was able to identify the group of people just by looking at their appearance. Hearing this, whether it was Ma Zhixiang, Lu Mingyu, or the others, all turned pale with fright and trembled. The people they had never heard of in the world, the people who lived in the rainforest of gunfire, were all here. And each of their identities was more terrifying than the last. Ma Zhixiang and the others were so scared that they did not even dare to breathe. At this moment, Tiger glanced at Yun Jian and the others. He did not take Yun Jian and the others seriously and ordered his men to open the coffin. When the researchers in the distance saw this, they did not dare to stop them. The coffin containing the woman's corpse was opened in front of everyone. The female corpse in the coffin had delicate skin, rosy cheeks, and beautiful looks. With just one look, she gave off a kind of earth-shattering beauty that made people unable to take their eyes off her. She lay quietly in the coffin, wearing a leather jacket and pants that wrapped around her perfect figure. A silver pistol was tied to her thigh. She was so beautiful that it made people forget to breathe. The beauty of the girl in the coffin and Yunjian's beauty at this moment were somewhat similar. Both were so beautiful that people would never forget them. Ha ha ha. It's her. It's definitely her. There's no mistaking it. It's definitely Slaying God herself. Although she's never shown her face, I've interacted with her so many times. There's no mistaking it. It's her. Tiger glared fiercely at the girl in the coffin and cackled savagely. In the next second, Tiger's smile faded and he said to his men, "This B***TCH has been rampant for so many years and she's finally dead. Ha ha ha." She wants to leave just like that? Dream on. Take off Slaying God's clothes and cut her into 1,000 pieces. I want her to die without peace. Upon hearing the order, Tiger's men walked toward the female corpse in the coffin. Ma Zhixiang and the others shuddered. They did not expect Tiger to attack the deceased. However, just as Tiger's men were about to attack the female corpse in the coffin, a sharp female voice rang out. A cold female voice rang out in time. The female voice that suddenly rang out caught the attention of everyone present. When everyone turned to look, they saw Yunjian making her way to the coffin. She was already holding 2 butterfly knives that resembled those of Slaying God, who used to dominate the world. When the international bosses saw Yunjian holding the butterfly knives, they shuddered. She looked exactly like the person in their memories. However, in the next second, Yunjian walked slowly. The words that came out of her mouth were so cold that everyone's eyes widened. "How dare you humiliate my corpse in front of me? Tiger, I haven't seen you for a few years and you've grown so bold that you can't even recognize me. Do you want to try dying again? A. Chapter 21:43. That familiar tone, those arrogant words as usual. She was. Tiger's eyes widened as he stared at Yunjian. His expression changed. Slaying God had a grudge against Tiger. At least in Tiger's heart, Slaying God was someone he hated to the bone with. This was because Slaying God had sabotaged Tiger's missions more than once, causing him to fail his missions. This had happened many times in his career. This chapter is unauthorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.